What's up? How you doing? As you can see, I have my Atlanta Falcons stuff on today. I am a Falcons fan, for those who do not know. Uh, Today is also July 25th. I started this podcast at 5:25, and that's because my favorite numbers are 5 and 25. Any student of mine will tell you that. Anybody who really knows me will tell you that. And that's because my real educational moment, right? What do they call it? Aha moment. Like when you learn something or you figure something out. In football, they call it when things slow, the game slows down. And you can fact, you actually start to understand and process it. And when things start to click and make sense, it was multiplication, math, right? When I was a kid learning how to do math, didn't really get multiplying, addition, subtraction, no problem at all. When it came to multiplying, I'm sitting there going, huh, what the heck? What is going on? Then one day, lo and behold, I don't know why, but I realized that 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 times 5 is 25. That means 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 6 is 30. And I understood mathematics. I understood multiplication from that, and from multiplication. Once you understand multiplication, you understand division. And so the four building blocks of mathematics, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, I had them down pat once I realized that 5 times 5 is 25. And so my favorite number is 5. And other favorite number is 25. When I got older, went to college, right? Jersey State College no longer existed because King University brought them out. I met a kid from Trenton named Cypher. He was a 5 percenter. See, and you notice the thing with the five, right? 5 percenter, five, my favorite number, 5 percenter. What's that all about? And he hit me to the whole idea of the nations of God and earth, right? But he also broke it down like this. He said that number five, and he's, 5 percenters are an offshoot or a branch of Black American Islam, not worldwide Islam or worldwide Muslim, because it's the same thing, but you always get these breaks and divisions. And if they were like Catholic or Christians, they call them like what, not schisms, but they call them like not cults, but whatever you call it when it's I can't remember the precise word when it's the ring religion, but then you get something that like an offshoot of branch that the real church does not approve of. That's what it is called. That's what the 5% nation, in my opinion, is. Right? By Clarence 13X. That's what's up. But Cypher told me, and I like acronyms. You don't know what acronyms are when you take long words or titles and you just use the beginning letters and they make a new word, right? And the acronym he gave me is 5 letters for 5 percenters, 5% nation, and also why Islam and why it's like number five. ALLAH. Look. Arm, leg, arm, head. That is man, right? Arm, leg, arm, head. Allah. Right? So that 5% stuff hit me where I live at, right? And my number five, I love acronyms. And also I got a thing about truth and honesty. And that seems when I hear facts and it sounds like facts, it sounds like facts. And so all that to go and say, explain why I'm not an Atlanta Falcons fan, right? I'll get into that in a different episode, right? Maybe my family. But for today, on the 25th of July, 2026, if it was July 2025, it'd be perfect, right? Uh, I have to go back. This is like a redo. Yesterday, July 24th, I did a second interview with former Irvington, New Jersey Mayor Wayne Smith. It was great. That's why I talked to Wayne Smith. Wayne Smith, he's like the black Bill Clinton to me. That sounds crazy, right? Because Bill Clinton was president, governor, or whatever. But when I say that, I mean there were some people who just had it. Whatever it is, Bill Clinton had it, and Wayne Smith got it, right? And to me, the thing about it, you call it the in Hollywood the it girl. She's the it girl of the moment. Marilyn Monroe and all these other starlets who come out, even the male stars like Johnny Depp has got it, right? Johnny Depp been around since 21 Jump Street and Nightmare on Elm Street, and here we are, what 50, 60 years later, and Johnny Depp is in the new, right? But he's still the man, and people will be loved. So whatever it is, Mick Jagger got it. You can, 50 Cent got it. It just Method Man had it. You can tell when you see it. DMX had it, right? Um, you can tell it when you see it because it just it jumps out at you, right? And it's the gift of gab, it's command of the language, it's presence, it's charisma, it's a whole lot of things, but I call it it. But Wayne Smith has it. And so that's why I like talking to Wayne Smith. Also the fact that he has uh experience as a leader, a black leader, a municipal leader, a black municipal leader of a predominantly black community, which was Irvington, New Jersey. When I covered it in New Jersey, I'm a journalist, and I work for War Community Newspapers. That's now War Media, but they have might have expanded, but they're still in business because the print business is going out. But War Media when they moved online because one of their sons is really good. I can't remember his name. But he was the tech guy, and so they're online. It's what is it called? Essex News. I'm not sure what it's called. Uh, yeah, but it's not. But it's like the website. But they have weekly newspapers, or they had in 22 different towns in New Jersey, including Essex County, Union County, um, and I believe some other counties too. I'm not sure, but I know Essex County, Union County definitely, right? Because I worked with them. I covered Hillside, I covered Elizabeth, um, Newark, Irvington, Orange, East Orange. Was that it? And then I did Jersey City and I did freelance stuff all around the other parts of the state of New Jersey. So, but I am a journalist, right? And so I covered Irvington, and that's why I met Mayor William Smith, and I watched him, run Irvington. And yeah, the thing about it is, once you see it or you hear it, you watch it, you can say, okay, that's it. And yeah, Wayne Smith got it. I don't know if it comes across while interviews with me. If it doesn't, it's just because I'm not giving him the space to display the it, but I think it always comes through. But anyway, after I did my interview with him, which is available now on Eclipse TV, ESTV5, Eclipse TV5 on YouTube, Chris Black. You can go and watch it right now. It was premiered at 5:25, right? um, right after I did that, I had a whole lineup of different topics that I want to discuss with former Mayor Smith. He'll always be Mayor Smith to me. So even though he's ex-Mayor Smith, when I say Mayor Smith, I'm going to be Mayor Smith. It's just like former Irvington Police Chief Michael Chase is always going to be Chief Chase to me. He's just Chief Chase. I mean, some people you get a title. Chief Chase kind of got it too, but his it is in like a Wyatt Earpy way, right? In a law enforcement copy way. It's not. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's as wide ranging as Bill Clinton's or Wayne Smith, but he got a little bit of it too, and he's an intelligent dude. The only cop, that I'm not going to denigrate cops in general, right? But yeah, he's he doesn't come up as the average cop. I'll put it that way. His it transcends his law enforcement profession and background and cop sensibility. But yes, I don't know why I was talking about Michael Chief Chase. Well, I'm saying because he's Chief Chase, he's going to always be Chief Chase to me. Some people they just are that, even if they no longer have that title or position. That's how I know them as. Like Dwight Saunders, former code enforcement official in the city of East Orange, New Jersey. He's Gunsmoke to me, right? Because he's got that Chief Chase, it official copy ex-military charisma thing too. It just come up as Gunsmoke. He gunswinger in the Old West, right? There used to be a TV show called Gunsmoke. And he's an older dude, so he grew up watching that stuff on TV. But yeah, it's like his new sheriff in town. And that's because when I was covering East Orange, when he took over under former Mayor Lester Taylor, and he appointed Dwight Saunders to be the code enforcement official. He came in like, it's a new sheriff in town. His name is Dwight. Dwight Saunders, right? And so he's just like a gunslinger. And in terms of Chief Chase, to me, Chief Chase that's why he can't have it like Will Smith or Bill Clinton, right? Because he's like Wyatt, he's like a black Wyatt Earp to me, right? He's a cop. He likes being a cop. Whatever being a cop means to you or me to him, he just likes it, right? Picture Denzel Washington from Training Day, but not evil, right? But not corrupt, right? But yeah, and so to me, Chief Chase, Black Wyatt Earp, if he could walk around with his gun stuck in his belt instead of having a holster, and just walk in there and do Wyatt Earp stuff. Watch the movie Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. Even the one with Kurt Russell was pretty good, right? But you watch those Wyatt Earp movies, and whatever impression you get, that's how Chief Chase was as a cop. Right? Yeah, right. But anyway, I had these clips set up for Mayor Smith, and I wanted Mayor Smith to comment on them, but we didn't get around to that because once again, his it kind of takes over. He came on, he wanted to hyper promote his current business. He also elaborated about his business and financial consulting, his current financial consulting and investment business, but then also his background in finance and consulting in business and money management and all type of stuff, which is interesting. He didn't mention, but I know that he also has an entertainment background. That he used to, work with and manage music groups and stuff. So yeah, he's a versatile dude, right? And once again, the it factor pops out. And so that's why I wanted him to talk about topics. A lot of times if I've got guys on here, if you have noticed, much like my thing with the numbers 5 and 25, my pet peeve or my thing is leadership, good leadership, right? Leadership in the Black community, especially because I believe that these big words, right? A dearth of good Black leadership has been hurting the Black community ever since Dr. King and Malcolm X, caught some bullets. And they wasn't straight, they was directed, right? I also have a pet peeve, in this leadership. I also got a pet peeve with Black lawyers. A lot of lawyers in New Jersey, areas I covered, they'll tell you, Chris got an issue. Yeah. We need good Black lawyers. We ain't really had one since Thurgood Marshall and Johnny Cochran. No. There's probably good ones coming up now. That dude who defended the Chow family down there in South Carolina, who got the Chinese business owner off for running outside and killing that Black kid, which he should not have done. Him or his son should not have left that store. That was a travesty. The fact that, to me, they would have lost the case because why you leave the store? Once he left the store, call the cops. But they ran the store with a gun and confronted him, and dude who was running from him ends up dead. And then the dude who's running from him ends up being a bad guy. But one of the reasons why that guy Chow got off is Chinese American. Aside from being AP, I'm just kidding. Right? One of the reasons he got off, he had a Black lawyer working for him. And they showed a Black lawyer arguing the case in court against, because he was defending Chow, against the prosecution's case trying to put Chow in jail. It was great stuff. It was good lawyering. And that was a good Black lawyer. We need more dudes like that doing Black cases for Black, issues and Black topics. But not just Black, but just in general, in America, you need good lawyers. Shout out to Critchley and Kenham in New Jersey. There's some good lawyers over there in Critchley and Kenham, baby. As Mayor Tony Voss would tell you. And yeah, Chris Kenham, bad man, right? He loves his job. He's, you talk about gunslinger. He's a legal gunslinger. Walk in a courtroom like what? But yes, so you need lawyers like that because we say this is a country of laws, a nation of laws. And in a nation of laws, you need good lawyers. You need good people to navigate those laws and to protect people from those laws and to enforce the laws. You need all that type of good stuff, right? So I got a pet peeve about bad lawyers, whether they're Black, brown, whatever. But really, I got a pet peeve against bad Black lawyers because, the civil rights movement in America is based off good lawyers. And that's why Thurgood Marshall was, man, C-Court Justice argued that case, Brown v. Board of Ed. Come on now. The entire NAACP legal team from back then. All of those civil rights gains were based off of courts. And that's why America is different and better than, as Trump called them, shithole countries. But yeah, it's better because technically they hate it. They hate us. They hate you. They hate Black people. But they go, you got a point there in the law there, boy. Right? So the law is bigger than the racial stuff. Right. And so you can fault the founding fathers of America for being racist, for being slave owners, all the hypocrites, all that they did, which they are all hypocritical. But they enshrined in the law mechanisms to put the law above that personal petty stuff. And that's what everybody who comes to this country benefits from right now to this day, 250 years later. And so, yeah, that's why I'm gonna say America is better. I don't give a fuck. I'm American. I like America, right? And but it's like a Shakespeare love, right? Shakespeare's poems, I think, one of the great poems of all. I think English is the best language, right? And uh, and he says, my love's fair eye. He talks about how he loves a woman, and he puts it in poetry, and he puts it in iambic canon and Shakespeare and Elizabethan language. But he's going, yo, I don't have to sit here and say your eyes like the moon, the sun, the stars, or whatever. Yeah, they ain't that great. Your eyes are regular. Your boobs sag, your butt is not perfect, but I still love you. And so that's how I feel about America, right? There's a lot of flaws up in this piece, baby. Easily identifiable, right about there. That's why I spell America with three K's instead of a C, right? Because Woodrow Wilson played Birth of a Nation in the White House. Like, it was a great movie. And he was from Princeton in New Jersey, Ivy League, President of the United States. Let us do World War One. Made the League of Nations, Future of the United Nations. Great man. But he was racist. Right? All those founding fathers were racist. They were. And it was nothing personal, except Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton was from the Caribbean. That's why Jamaicans and Caribbean people didn't live well. Because he's like, yo, slavery's stupid. So what's the human potential? And that was bare bones. He was going, yo, we wasting them. They could be, you got them out here in the field slaving, and then their horizons are limited, right? That's the problem with the Indian caste system. But I won't get into that. But the point I'm making is, what's the point I'm making? I get off. I go off. Oh, yeah, I just like America. And one of the reasons why is the laws and the rules and the laws. And also, one of my pet peeves is bad leadership. I thought Wayne Smith was a good leader. He only had a couple of issues with me that he was a little lax with. But that goes back to like Chief Chase. To be a good leader to me, sometimes you gotta have separation, because as a leader and then somebody in terms of a leadership position in an organization, you've got to be the guy or the woman to bring down the hammer on people when they get out of line. You got to enforce the rules and the organization structure of that organization. But if I'm too friendly with you and we too buddy buddy, right? Because good leaders are, and I'm too chummy chummy, and it's compassion. Talk about Bill Clinton. These guys, yeah, they got charisma, and they put their arm around you and it's whatever. But when I got to turn around and drop a hammer on you, if you feel all fuzzy, warm and fuzzy about me, but then you take my enforcement of the rules personal, then all of a sudden, what would have just been the business of enforcing the rules is personal now, because you go, oh, you don't beat me. He hate me. You traded on me. And then, now we got issues. And so, I'm not going to knock them, because everybody has different leadership style. But like I said, I think it was good leadership. I think Wayne Smith was good leadership. And well, once again, I thought he was a little too chummy too. Uh, but his other thing was he didn't. Yeah, yeah. He didn't set up his own structure. A lot of his thing was codependent, because he had D. Bilal Beasley, he was the Burlington Democratic Committee chairperson, but then also the real boss and the real power, and Wayne was like with him, these people with him. But that's all well and good until you want to do other things, and the boss says, no, you can't do nothing. Do what I tell you to do. You go now and do. And now unless you got your own structure, you're caught. That's why this whole cancel culture thing. You can't cancel me if you didn't make me, right? That's what the cancel culture structure comes in. That's why anybody who can get canceled, they can get canceled because somebody else made them, right? Like Cat Williams was talking about a dude getting fired by Disney, couldn't be Kang anymore. That's because Disney made him. If he had been Johnny Depp, somebody else would have jumped right in and said, Disney don't want you, come over here. Right? But they dropped him, and nobody has picked him up. And that lets you know that he was made by Disney, made by Marvel, right? And so, yes, they can cancel you if they made you, right? But if they have not made you, the people have made you. But outside force, if you've made yourself, you can't get canceled. So that's why the whole cancel culture stuff, why you worried about it if they ain't make you, right? You ain't putting no water in my trough or food in my thing, right? But anyway, I digress. But I had a list of things that I wanted to do with Wayne Smith, and I did actually after I ate, because my interview with Wayne Smith was like 2 hours long, but it could have been longer, right? Because I like to go on and get it, because the more comfortable you get, the better stuff gets. There's a lot of long form interviews. I think we shorten this too, but I'm gonna chop it up. But what was I gonna say? Oh yes, but we didn't get around to that because when it turns on, you just gotta let it flow. And like I said, talking to Wayne Smith, it just cuts in and we go with them. And my thing is let's ride the it wave until it's over. So we didn't get to some of the things that I really wanted to get to. And I never try to interrupt it, right? Because you like I said, when it's flowing, you let it flow. Bruce Lee said, be like water. I agree with that, right? I like Asian philosophy, right? Uh, yeah, I do. Right? Uh, and so yeah, you let it flow. And when it's flowing, you don't interrupt it if you don't have to. And so he was flowing and we just flowed for like 2 hours. It was crazy, but it's good, right? And a rap is like a cipher, right? You've been in a rap cipher with some rappers and they're going, yeah, what? Next thing you know, it's like 5 in the morning. You're going, like, hell, we still out here. but but there were some things I wanted to get to because I wanted to get comments from him about them. He actually touched on this is why it is so good too. He let it flow. He touched on a lot of them in passing. We didn't get specific with the stuff that are these specific clips, but I do. I'm on Instagram at C5 Black 25, also at Triller 525 and GNN 525. If you see GNN or Greater New York News out there, and it's not me, right? As somebody put up a page and they jack my stuff, I have to let them know to stop biting. But it's an imitation is imitation is the sincerest form of appreciation. So, all my ideas are good. I'm like Cat Williams. My ideas is good. Of course, we can copy it. You just got to come a little more like Cat. But so after I finished with him, I went on again. I started another. I'm not going to call it entire ES episode, maybe an addendum to the interview, the second interview with Mayor Smith. And I went over those each of the topics and I elaborated and talked about why I wanted to talk about it and why I thought it was important. And I did it too, right? The only mistake was I did not hit the record button. Right? So here I am going through all this stuff. And it was good stuff too. Trust me, it was good, right? All my stuff is good, right? But I was on fire because I had just been I was all warmed up from coming off from Mayor Smith, right? I was in the groove, in my opinion. And I was dropping gems, right? I was getting effort, right? And but I didn't hit the record button. And so I went to look today, and sure enough, it's not there. So now, but as a journalist, I am also a writer, right? As a reporter, I was writing news stories. I was writing stories and editor, whatever, and I'm a publisher, right? But I still write, I take pictures, I do all my stuff, right? I'm multimedia. I'm self-contained. Maybe. That's why I said you can't sue me. Well, right? And right, because I got it. Because once you own something and it's yours, they cannot take it from you. Like I said, that's why they talk about giving somebody a fish or teaching them how to fish. Right? Teach them how to fish. You go fish wherever you got to fish, right? But getting canceled, it means you can't have no more fish. How you gonna tell me I can't have no more fish? Right? I'm just kidding. But anyway, so I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to go over things again. And I mentioned being a writer because if anybody who's written any student, I guess, who's been in school, who's done a report or whatever, and this is I don't know about today because they got automatic save and all this hardware, right? So the computer automatically saves stuff. You don't lose things. But that's automatic save is in there because once upon a time, typewriters and writers and publishers and stuff like that, you write something down, but you don't save it, it gets lost. And then all of a sudden, you can spend hours, weeks, months, research or whatever, putting something together, but you didn't hit save. And now all of a sudden, you're back to zero, right? And if you're like me, you think, oh, your stuff is good. I think my stuff is good. You go, wow, that stuff is great, right? It was perfect the first time the way it was. But now you got to go back and recreate perfection, right? Or you got to you got to recapture the moment, right? But in the writing process is write and revise, write and revise, write and revise, write and revise. Writing is always writing and revision and editing, right? So even though I always thought it was perfect, right? When I just copy stuff from the encyclopedia, right? You said it was perfect. But then you have to go back and then when you recall stuff from your mind, because you don't want to go back and do anything. So you try to capture it straight out and put it back on the paper. But as a writer, writer / creator, it's not going to be exactly the same the second time around as it was the first time around, right? And so you're trying to recapture that spirit, that moment and stuff. But you know, this is going to be different out of necessity. So I took you through what? 6 or 6. I took you through 15, 20 minutes of talking just to get back to the fact uh yeah, I'm gonna go do what I did yesterday again. But this time it was probably hopefully be tighter, but I still think that was good commentary because I don't know if I'll have the great commentary I had. I thought it was great commentary and insight and discussions because sometimes you start talking and things flow. And so this one might be tighter. That's why the writing and review process is important. Because a lot of times, and that's why editing is important. You talk about quality control, staying on message, and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you know, you make it tighter, you make it more streamlined, right? And you make it flow better and go quicker. So I don't want to go quicker for the most part. I want all of you thorough, right? Everything. Look. Chief Chase, this is for you. But anyway, I digress. So let me share my screen when we get to this part. Right, yeah, it is. And here we go. So right now, what's considered? I hope it'll probably be shorter now because, like I said, I did it yesterday, so it will be shorter and more compact because I've already gone through it. But I still like what I did yesterday. So I'm going to share what I got with you, right? And I'm on Zoom a lot. I'm not Zoom. I'm on Instagram, right? Like everybody else. Most of them everybody knows that. But topics come up, and so as I come across things, I say them. I say them for later. Uh, this one was interesting to me. Let me make it bigger, right? As you see the headline in the.com, I always try to, as a publisher, but then also as a journalist and creative and intellectual property rights and also whatever, I try to give credit where credit is due. And yeah. So I don't mind. I had an editor one time who was mad. You're not going to just put other people's stuff, but if they did it, well, I got to recreate the wheel. You just got to give me credit for it, right? And as long as I'm not stealing, it's not plagiarism if I'm attributing to it, right? From India.com. And it says school lunch provider faces backlash for using a watermelon on a Juneteenth menu, right? So Juneteenth is the holiday that nobody asked for in my opinion, except that old woman from Texas who walked across America to get it, right? But it was the Biden administration. It was to me, it was some PR stuff. They threw the black community after the Southern black voters rescued Biden's presidential run, right? Saved him from nowhere. And what we got in exchange for that was Juneteenth. Not as bad, but Juneteenth is the anniversary of the date when the slaves and slave owners in Texas found out that Lincoln had emancipated all the slaves and all the territories, so that slavery was over. So they didn't find out till a couple of years after the Civil War ended. That's not funny, but they didn't find out till a couple of years after it was over that they were free, and so they had been free, but they had been working. So Texas is, it's got a lot of issues, but that's what Juneteenth really is about. And so it's like a black thing, a black holiday, technically speaking, it's for everybody, right? Like Barack Obama, hey, I'm not the president of the black people, I'm the president of everybody. So I can't do nothing for black people, but I digress. Uh, this is interesting to me because, and this is the other thing about immigrants and about people coming to this country who have no knowledge or background of America. They don't know about black people. They don't know about discrimination and comedy and things that we use like fried chicken and watermelon to denigrate and clown black people, right? But watermelon, which is actually a great natural healthy food, is mostly liquid. It's got vitamins and minerals in it. It's actually good for you in every way, especially if you're out there in the hot sun working like the black slaves or the Africans, black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and then stolen slavery over here in America. You're out there working all day, 14, 15 hours from sun up till when sun go down, right? And watermelon is good for you. It's healthy for you. But because it was good for the slaves and they used the slaves, it became like synonymous with the slaves and a way for to put the slaves down. Look at them eating that watermelon. Yeah, look at me eating something healthy that's going to save my life while I'm out here slaving for free, right? For y'all. But they turned it against us, right? As if they rebranded it. And to the point where watermelon and black people liking it and eating watermelon became a negative stereotype and a negative thing. It had negative connotations when in fact it's not negative at all. And so this story says, and because personally speaking, because I'm a Black American, descended from the Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and then sold into slavery over here in America and the New World. So I understand what watermelon means when it's, and so when I became a journalist and reporter, I would never take a picture, and I would never put a picture in a newspaper when I became an editor. Never put a picture of a Black person eating watermelon. Just wouldn't do it. I refuse to take a picture of Black people eating watermelon or Black people eating watermelon and put it on and publicize it and put it out there in the universe because of the negative connotation and stereotype. It's like having a Black person eating a Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, right? Or eating a chicken wing or something, right? I wouldn't do it because of how it had been turned against us, Black Americans, and used to, as a stereotype and a negative thing, again, even though it was really not, right? It's about survival and stuff. That's it. Watermelon's healthy. And so I'm smiling because, like I said, as a journalist, I'm out here in covering Irvington, especially in Irvington. They had a health department director, and he's an Indian dude. He's an Indian dude, right? Not from America. He's Indian. And but even then, Irvington has a large Haitian population. Haitian immigrant Haitian population in Irvington, New Jersey. There's a lot of them. Legal, illegal, I don't know. There's a lot of them. Always has been for a few, decades. But so they were different too. And so they had a block party. Sandy Jones, Southward Councilwoman Sandy Jones had an annual picnic on her block, and she had a block out there, and so the department was out there, and they were feeding people and whatever. And they had watermelon. And I'm telling the Indian dude, and the little kids eating watermelon, Black people eating watermelon. This looks cute, whatever. But I'm sitting there going, nah, I ain't taking no pictures of no Black people eating watermelon, right? And I told this guy, he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what? That's a great, because he's a health guy, right? I don't know if he's a doctor or a medical guy, but he didn't, those negative connotations from Woodrow Wilson and his ilk, right? The people, the KKK people and America and that stuff. He's going, what are you talking about? Watermelon's good for you, right? And then Councilwoman Charnette Frederic, right? She's also in Irvington. She's Haitian. She's a scientist, though, PhD, very intelligent, smart. But that's the not one good thing. Well, I'm saying yes, but after that earthquake that hit Haiti, I guess maybe a decade or two ago now, I met more outstanding Haitian Americans or Haitians because they all got together to try to help Haiti and came out and did type of stuff. But Charnette, when she got to Irvington, she wanted to get in politics, and so since I was in. And her husband's a Haitian guy too. He's a smart guy too. They got a little smart son, right? He's not really anymore. But and I remember talking to her, telling her husband, because this is what I mean about immigrants and the Black experience of Black Americans descended from the Black Africans that were kidnapped, enslaved in America. And it's not inherently different, but it is different. They say, oh, we just got off at different points on the ship. Yeah, that's true, but then it was different because in Jamaica, ain't nobody sitting there going, stop eating that watermelon, don't eat that chicken, right? that's some uniquely American racial stuff, right? And like I said, as I'm talking to this Haitian guy, right? And Haiti's history with Toussaint Louverture, those guys fighting the French and whatever, getting freedom. And I told him, and I don't know if he's medical, but he's Charnette is a scientist and a PhD, so he's probably got at least a master's degree, a doctor too. Smart guy, Haitian dude, right? And I'm saying, yeah, man, I'm telling him about my watermelon thing. And he looked at me like I was crazy too. What the fuck? He's like, what? Don't eat watermelon. What's wrong with you? Right? And so this is what I mean, but I won't do it. So I say all that to put it in context of when I saw the school lunch provider faces backlash using a watermelon on a Juneteenth menu. And it said Montclair School Superintendent Ruth B. Turner criticized the district community lunch provider for placing a watermelon graphic on its June 19 cafeteria menu, calling it, quote unquote, inappropriate, insensitive, and inconsistent with the values of the district. See, that's an American person who understands how watermelon has been branded and stigmatized, and Black people eating or consuming watermelon, which is literally and figuratively good for you, has been made into a negative connotation and stereotype by American society. This is what American black people mean by systemic and whatever. There's things in cultural references that people who are not from here don't get until they get here and go, what are you talking about? This sounds ridiculous, but it's real, right? And so that's what the superintendent is saying: inappropriate, insensitive, and inconsistent with the values of the district. Because a health person, like the health guy at Sandy Jones' annual event back there, and everything would have said, "What are you talking about? Inconsistent with the values. Eating something that's good for you is not good." And the answer is no. It's been branded bad, right? And said the watermelon has a well-documented history as a racist stereotype used to demean and marginalize Black Americans. The company, Sodexo, apologized and committed to additional staff training and menu review processes to ensure cultural sensitivity. What that tells me is Sodexo probably it's a food preparation. That's also why you don't outsource your food preparation, right? You got an outside provider, and they probably buy for a lot of districts or whatever. They got contract with the state or the district, and they're not thinking about that racial stuff. They're thinking about making money and putting out food, which is for hopefully healthy food. And so to them, watermelon's a healthy thing. Listen, so if you had a lot of immigrants, or you had a lot of Latino or migrant helpers or workers working there, or even the people in upper positions who come from different cultures outside of America, but they're in that industry, that food industry, all they see is water, a healthy natural product has got low calories, high fiber, got a lot of fiber, a lot of, it's good for you. And they put it out there, but then when they put it out there, the Black people go, you're being racist against me. And they go, what are you talking about? And so that I wanted to talk to them about that, because like I said, there's a lot of nuances to things. If you listen to the interview I did with William Smith, you'll see he's really good at nuance. And I think that's part of what makes it too. That's why Ronald Reagan had it on a conservative side, right? Because they call Ronald Reagan the great communicator, right? The great communicator is because he could talk to people and people understand what he's talking about. He take complex things and make them simple and relatable and understandable to everybody, regardless of education level, region, district, background, religion, anything. They can understand, oh, I get it. I get what you're talking about, right? And so Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy had it. JFK had it. FDR had it too, right? I'm talking about politics and things like that. Ben Franklin, one of my favorite founding fathers from Philadelphia, right? Also the reason why America won this Revolutionary War. Had it on many, many different levels. Talk about Renaissance moment. Ben Franklin, right? He had it, and whatever it is, you just know when you see it and when you experience it. He had it. And so and that all goes back to, once again, this whole thing with watermelon, which I thought was funny. Because this food provider, lunch provider, they created they say cultural insensitivity. It's just a faux pas. They didn't the people who run Sodexo are probably not Black, American Black. When I say Black, I don't mean like Nigerian immigrant Black or Jamaican immigrant Black. They're just not Black American. They don't understand what watermelon means to Black American, or how watermelon has been twisted to mean something that it doesn't. It's literally not. But that's how America goes. That's why I got 3 Ks in America. So, but we'll move on. This next one, let me pause this. This next one I picked out because during my interview with Dwight Saunders with Gunsmoke, and it was a good thing. Shout out to Gunsmoke, because he did Gunsmoke don't care. That's why he's brave like the sheriff in town. I don't care. Gunsmoke, what the fuck, right? But he said something that I had been, one of these one of these podcasts based off of and a lot of this stuff you're going to content you're going to see me create is all based off interviews. I got tons and tons. I got gigs. I got terabytes worth of stuff during my time as a journalist reporter covering local events here in New Jersey, also New York and other places, right? And so I hear things, I heard things, and we right now, the Democratic Party going through everything it's going through. I spoke with Mayor Smith, talking about the Democratic Socialists and whatnot, and about And he glanced over it, but he didn't go into it. The black American voters discontent or dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party, right? I feel it. I don't know what anybody else is going to say, but Mayor Smith is too diplomatic to say that, but he, acknowledged it. And but here in New Jersey, uh, there's in Essex County, where Newark is, Irvington is, Essex County. There's an Essex County executive named is Joseph DiVincenzo. He's an Italian guy. They call him Joe D for short. He used to be a high school star quarterback at Barron's High School in North Side, North Ward. And he grew up, went into politics. They handsome Italian dude, smooth. Joe D has it too. Right? Yeah, Joe D has it too. And he's good, honestly, he's a good dude. But listen, his trademark is stamped here as being county executive in Essex County, and also to rise to the level of county executive in Essex County in New Jersey. But even though New Jersey is a blue state, it's political. You don't know, you don't really understand, right? Until you've been in from Jersey and get it. But for him to rise to be the county exec in there, and Essex County, and have been there for as long as he's been there, because he's been there for what, 2, 3 decades now, right? He's been there a minute, right? But he runs the county. You're the county executive, you run the county. Joe D is known for focusing on all the county parks. So any park, any public park or public space in Essex County, New Jersey, Branchville Park, up there by Turtleback Zoo, South Mountain Reservation, this is the places. He made it over in Irvington Park, over here at Irvington, where they have now the Be the Loud Business Center right there sitting up front. Also the basketball court back over there and some other things. Yes, Joe D made it a priority to improve all those county parks. So when you see nice soccer fields, nice football fields, nice public open spaces, even some partnerships between restaurants and things that use those public spaces that he improved, or fields that your kids are playing on, or you're enjoying, that's Joe D did all that. Joe D is responsible for all of that. Right? County roads getting paid, that's Joe D. Right? So that's a powerful, influential position, and I believe he has used it well. And I say all that to give him credit, because I'm going to say some things now that may sound denigrating to Joe D, but it's really not. But it's what this Instagram clip is all about. But it goes to this fact, and also it is a comment about a lot of Black Americans' feelings about the Democratic Party at this particular point in time, because it seemed like the Democratic Party has been prioritizing everything except Black American voters. When I say Black American voters, I'm not talking about the hyphenated African American people. I'm talking about the descendants of the Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and then sold into slavery here in America, and in the South in particular, and other places. Right? That's Black people to me. When I say Black people, that's who I'm talking about. So there's a thing, Dominicans saying no black, no black. Good, don't be Black, be Dominican, right? Because y'all have not shared our struggle and our success and our survivability. We here, you got to be proud to be Black in America, because we don't overcome some crap, right? If anybody has an investment in ownership of this country, it's us. We worked here for hundreds of years for free, right? Come on now. But anyway, there's also connotation. And so Joe D running the county exec, if you have a county job, because Joe D is a county executive, you work for Joe D, right? Because he's a county exec, his name's on your check. Here, I don't know if it's a phenomenon for New Jersey, because I'm pretty sure it's everywhere though, because this is politics and it's Democratic Party politics going all the way back to Boston and all the other kind of, stuff in here and North America, especially in this New York, New Jersey region, right? But a lot of local Black elected officials, this is also goes back to the Voting Rights Act thing, the redistricting and gerrymandering, even though it's unattended, but it's the larger stuff having looked at impact. A lot of Black elected officials in these Black towns, like Irvington, like East Orange, like Newark, in Essex County, once they get elected to public office, a lot of these Black elected officials from these Black communities, the Black towns, these Black politicians, right? They go get county jobs and they work for the county. So now you were elected over here to represent your community, and you're outside, maybe it's outside or whatever. But then you get elected and you take that county job. Once you take that county job, you're no longer independent. You work for Joe D, right? And so that's a good thing because membership has its privileges, and that's the Democrats control everything. The Democratic Party and Joe D powerful Democratic dude. But he's your boss, literally and figuratively now, right? It might have just been some guy you got to deal with at the county level after once you get things related from your municipal level, your town or borough or whatever. But once you work for the county, you work for Joe D. And so you want to keep that county job, you want to fall in line. And so throughout my time as a reporter, I have heard many references to Joe D's plantation, the plantation being the county job. If you work for the county, you're a black elected official. When your back is turned, and they know it, they know it too. They can say, "Oh, you on Joe D's plantation," because you got all these black elected officials working for the county, Essex County, and Joe D was Italian. Is the boss of the county. He's a county executive. So you're on Joe D's plantation. You got so many black elected officials there as like a old slave time thing. But once again, this goes back to disabilities and things that maybe immigrants from Guyana or any Africa or whatever they don't get because they've never been exposed to it because it's not like that. And, they have to be because of their tribe or whatever. But that's in America. That's that tribe and slave stuff. And then also we come to the Democratic Party where it seems like for the last, I would say, since Obama personally, because Obama was an internationalist, and that's why he'd sit there and say, "I'm not here for the Black American, I'm here for all American." Really? Did John F. Kennedy say he wasn't here for the Irish? Right? Did FDR say he was not here for the white people? No. Right? What the fuck she talking? Anyway. But so he worked for the county. And so this meme here by this woman is talking about black voters in the Democratic Party. And like I said, to me, it is relevant and has meaning because when you think about Joe D's plantation here in New Jersey. Totally funny. I hope you can hear it.
Some called representation. That's a fancy word to say ain't nobody that look like us gonna be in the big house no more. That's what they said.
She's referring to the Supreme Court of the United States recent decision. They didn't strike down the Voting Rights Act, but they revised it to say that you can't use race as a factor in drawing political district lines. You can't just say, "Oh, we want more black representation. Let's just draw this area," even no matter how it looks, to look crazy, be shaped crazy. But it's got a lot of black people in it, so we want a black elected official, somebody black from there. We're gonna put all the black people in this one place as voters, and so they can elect a black person. And the Supreme Court said you can't do that no more because, much like the Democrats said when Barack Obama got elected, "Oh, we're in a post-racial society. We're beyond that now." But now the Republicans have gone on that foot and said racism is over, discrimination is over. We don't need no affirmative action no more. We don't need no gerrymandered districts no more. Congressional Black Caucus. Wow, y'all racist against the rest of the country. And so, but it's just the battle back and forth in here in America, which is still the greatest country in the world. But yes, because she's talking about, so this video is about the Supreme Court decision revising, I would say, the Voting Rights Act. Which I personally, before I go, I thought it was a failure, and I mentioned this to Wayne Smith, if you look in the interview, to Mayor Smith. And he kind of, because he's a Democrat dude, and he's loyal, he's savvy. Like I said, he's got it, so he's diplomatic. But yeah, I feel like the Democratic Party dropped, and this is why black people in America are kind of disaffected and dissatisfied with the Democratic Party. Because it's like, they talk about Project 2025, you talk about the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act, even though it was landmark and it benefited everybody in the country, black people and everybody else, it was built with an expiration date, which means you have, every time it comes up for review, you've got to reaffirm it again. You got to reapprove it again in that form, the form that you like. And so that's got to be one of your priorities. If black representation, black elected representation is one of your priorities. So the fact that Democratic parties who knew this should know that it's going to come up, they didn't have anything in place, just like with Project 5. You know it's coming. You don't have no kind of plan in place to counter it. What are y'all doing? Right? because they've been too focused on the LGBTQ and everybody else and trans rights as opposed to black people's rights, right? So that's just my personal opinion. But it's just you lose your focus, and then you leave when you're in a struggle, you leave a fight. You leave open, and people exploit them, and the conservatives, the MAGAs, whatever you want to call them, they have exploited it. And here's what we have. So, but she's talking about the sea cream comes from Westwards.
You know, for the representation. They helped us. No, we ain't got 4 acres on you. But them folks across the water, them Asians, our representation made sure that they got a law now that say you can't say them bad tongues, can't say them bad bottom. That's when you go to jail. Right as hell. At the big house, they say them folks from down south, call them Hispanics. They mixed. So yes, I do the right. He's got a law like that, protect us like that. No, we ain't got nothing like that. You can say anything to us, and you can say anything about us, and then gonna happen to you. But I tell you what that representation does, they sings and they hollers and they falls out on the floor in front of them white folks just to tell them that they mad. Then hell, they don't do that for us, but they look good. That Crockett girl, she cusses good and she cuss loud right in front of them white folks. But that do that, let them know that she there.
She's talking about Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas, who just got redistricted out of her seat. So all her formerly district, she formerly represented an all black district. But once they redrew the lines and made it open to all groups besides just black people, those people who she was out there advocating for, like Latinos and whoever else and all them, they didn't vote for her. Voted her right out of office. We want somebody else besides you, right? And so this is what she's talking about. So yeah, you talk about Jasmine Crockett, and that's really what, and that's also so what disaffection and dissatisfaction is not really the Democratic Party. It's really this is where my leadership issues come in. It's with the black leadership. How you elected to represent black people and a black community and black issues, but then when you get there, you don't represent no black people, no black issues, no black whatever. And that's been happening for like 50, 60 years. They get up there and they're so happy to be in a room with, the rich, the big house. They're so happy to be in the big house on the Panhandle, right? That they just go along whatever the other guys say but that's not what it's about. It's about representation. I have personal issues with calling America a democracy, but it's really not. But what it is a representative democracy, if you want to use it. Meaning I elect a person to go represent me. Now that person's supposed to go represent me and the other people who elected them, they're concerned. But if my issue over here is we got bad pipes and plumbing, much like Flint, but you out here you ain't telling them we need some good pipes back over here. You're going, oh yeah, everybody, what are you doing? What am I getting for my vote? Nothing, which is what this meme is all about, and which is what the dissatisfaction is all about.
He didn't do that for us. Colored boy down there in Tennessee put his hand right there in that white man face and cussed him good. He ain't get us nothing, but he did it. I guess it looked good. It made folks happy to see him put his hand in his face, even though we ain't getting nothing out of it. Yeah.
See, and what she's saying right there, she's talking about the fact that it seems like the National Democratic Party, they use black elected officials as attack dogs. Go out and attack them. They can't say nothing to you because slavery is a real thing. And so you got the moral high ground on them. So you can go out there and attack them for anything. And that's what they've been using it for. They've been using black issues to promote other issues that are not beneficial to black people or other causes. She mentioned the AAPI and other that stuff. But yes, and so you get the black people run out there yelling and screaming about all the injustice. But dude, you're not representing your community. You still need pipes over here back home, but you ain't never mentioned pipes once. What are you doing? And so I'm not going to necessarily fault the Democratic Party, but the straight black elected officials, that's bad leadership, bad representation. You ain't out there leading us nowhere. You're not helping us, protecting us. What are you doing? That's my pet peeve with the black voters too. Right? What are you doing? Who are you helping? Who are you really working for? Right? And so that's what this says about the gun back. And then once again, she mentioned you have this right, you have this ability that's been put there, but if you don't use it, they take it away. That's how the federal government is. They give you grant money, and you kind of get penalized for unaffected. But if I give you 50,000, you do the job for 40,000. I ain't giving you 50 again. I'm giving you 40, right? And so that's how it goes. But yes, black people really haven't been getting the bang for our vote that we need. And he's been taking us for granted, even Barack Obama. You know, so but anyway, let's let her finish.
Hey, our tomatoes look good. Oh, yes, sir. These tomatoes gonna produce a mighty fine crop this year, sir. Everybody gonna eat good this year, sir. Oh, yes, sir. While you're down here, can I ask you something, sir? Make it quick. Now they put lines on the panel. You think maybe we could get some out of it? Hey, we gave you enough already. He's right, sir. I'm always getting ahead of myself. Yes, I is, sir. I just host too much. I'm sorry. I was gonna get these tomatoes right in the house right now, sir, just so you can eat your supper. All right now. This bitch you get on away from around here. He ain't look too happy about them questions. All right. Yes, sir. Maybe one day I'll representation some boys for me. All right.
Yeah, see, that's hilarious to me, and that's called satire, and that's political satire. That's social commentary right there too. That was a great job by her. I don't know who did that. Kei Bennett, Kei Bennett on Instagram. That's funny stuff. That's good stuff. And yeah, and you see what she asked the guy, and you know that's the other thing that's coming up. The whole idea is you have to ask for something. And she asked, "Can we get some more rights?" No, I didn't give you this, right? Larry Ham, the chairman of the People's Organization People's Organization People for Progress here in New Jersey, P.O.P. I think Larry's a legit revolutionary dude, but he's also the only true quote unquote progressive that I will give credit for being an actual progressive. He does not call himself Democratic Socialist or whatever, but he calls himself a Bernie Sanders progressive Democrat. He's progressive, and he really is, and progressive revolutionary, not in a bad way, but progressive. And but he always says that because he's a veteran of the Black Power movement, the Black Arts movement, all that stuff that happened after after the civil rights movement in the late 60s and 70s. He lived through all that stuff. He was out there in the vanguard of it, right? He's the first I think, first black member of the New York Board of Education back in the day. And he was a teenager at the time, like 16, 17. He was a young dude, right? He got started at Princeton, based off his outstanding stuff. Didn't stay there. But then again, how can you stay at Princeton when Woodrow Wilson was their dude? And he's showing birth of a nation in the White House, right? And Princeton's Ivy League, like Harvard and Yale, right? Old school. To the New Jersey 13th colony. So Princeton been around for a long, long time. And but Larry Ham will tell you, he'll say power is rhetoric, the revolutionary rhetoric, progressive rhetoric. And what rhetoric means is speech, talk, the words you use, and how you use them. He'll tell you power concedes nothing. They're not going to give you nothing. You have to make them. You have to take it. They only give you stuff because you take it. So all these people talking about, oh, they gave this and they give you that. And no, they don't want to give up nothing. They don't want to give up any control, any power. They only give because the alternative to not giving is somebody taking it. And so if I'm giving it to you, it's to offset the fact that you're about to take it. If I don't just give it to you, right? Like somebody robbing you on the street, say, give up the goods, right? And you give it up, right? Because otherwise, without giving it up, you have to fight for them goods. And if you ain't got a knife or a gun or squabs, you're going to be in a battle. And so that's why I concede. So power concedes nothing. So he said asking for it. The civil rights wasn't asking for it. All the civil rights movement did, and a good lawyer, Thurgood Marshall, which is why black lawyers are so such dire demand. They said, look, this is the law. Live up to your own laws. This is the rule that you said it is. But that rule is not being applied to everybody, right? And they're saying, keep it 100. Keep your word. right? Or your words empty? Because once you admit that with your rhetoric or your words don't mean nothing, then I don't have to abide by it, right? Once you admit on the record, yeah, that's just some stuff they said. That don't mean shit, really. Then I don't have to go by that thing. If what they said doesn't apply to everybody, it's not really law then. Why am I following it? Maybe I should go do something else. And they don't want that. Right? But power sees nothing. And so that's also part of this affection and dissatisfaction among the black electorate and the black voters. Because they're sitting there going, what the hell, man? And we always being told, be patient, wait a little bit longer. But even as she mentioned here with the AAPI back in the pandemic, when everybody thought that COVID came from China, which it did, and Chinese Americans were feeling threatened, they passed a law quick, fast, and in a hurry to give them protection, make them legal protection exemptions. Black people have been here hundreds of years, couldn't even get a anti-lynching law passed. Come on now, what's that all about? Right? Criminal justice reform after George Floyd, right? New Jersey Senator Cory Booker and that other senator, Tim Scott, I don't know if he's from Nebraska, wherever he's from. He's the other black dude, two black senators. They get together, yeah, after George Floyd. If you couldn't get anything pro-black passed after the pandemic, after George Floyd, then you know it's something wrong, right? And their thing was to do something about policing and police reform, even if it was just police training, and they got nothing done. Cory Booker said there was no will in the government to do anything. That means all those black Democrat friends who want you to jump out there and throw yourself on the floor and roll around for everybody else's advocacy won't do the same for you, for us, right? Tim Scott was going, hey, if it means I'm not defunding no police, if it means defunding the police, I'm not doing nothing. But anything that he thought was anti-cop or critical of the police, he had to do nothing, even if it meant retraining, right? And so you got two, and that would have been their chance to shine, right? Opportunity, black leadership. But nothing, can't get nothing done, can't get no consensus. All our brother Republicans and Democrats, nobody wants to help us. Really? And so then you get black people going, what the hell, man? What message are you sending us? The people who are paying attention, right? And that's where the dissatisfaction and disaffection comes from with black voters and the Democratic Party and whatever. That's what be our friends. But with friends like y'all, who these enemies? You already got enemies. They call conservative. They call MAGA, right? Trump just sat down and said that he plays golf with Michael Jordan. Jordan is his friend. It's a black dude, right? But everybody says Trump is a racist. Is he really racist? He's hanging out with Michael Jordan. Is he really racist? He used to know Jim Brown. And Jim Brown, for those who don't know, the greatest NFL running back of all time. You want to say pro-black or whatever, Jim Brown is the epitome of black man. And he called Trump a friend. So what's really going on with these Democrats running around calling them racist? But black people going, he all right with me. But the racists ain't passed no laws to help black people, but they hate racism, right? So what's really up? And that's the question. But I digress. We do move on. But that's why I wanted to show this clip and ask Mayor Smith. And we did touch on it a little bit. But once again, like I said, he's Mayor Smith for a reason. This next one was about Gil Noble. For you guys who don't know, shout out to Larry Ham again. Because Larry Ham is appearing on Gil Noble show. Gil Noble was a black dude. He had a TV show here in the New York area on ABC. He's come on Sunday mornings. And he interviewed Larry Ham because, like I said, Larry is somebody known in the I don't say post civil rights, but yeah, the Black Power era when black people were trying to come up, late 60s, 70s, and whatever. Larry Ham was out there in the streets, in them trenches. He's still out there now through People's Organization for Progress. So they protested the drop of a hat, and they're protesting for reform and change, right? They're still out there in them streets protesting now, right? And but Bill Noble, I believe he passed away. His TV show doesn't come on in 10 or 7 anymore. So it's not going to be because it's owned by Disney, but it's just not on anymore. But his was Gil Noble talking about Malcolm X. And for those who don't know, Malcolm X, to me, is, in terms of the civil rights movement, you had the two pillars. You had Dr. King over here and Malcolm X over here. Dr. King was like Southern and rural, in my opinion, is how I distinguish between them. And Malcolm X was urban, from Harlem, New York, Chicago, right? Urban area. So you had a Southern sensibility and a quote unquote Northern or urban sensibility, which was Malcolm X, and their messages were kind of different. But I'm an urban dude. I was not really born and raised in the South, right? And so that Malcolm X stuff resonates with urban cats, right? Uh, and still does, did and still does. But Malcolm X came on the scene. He was not talking. Uh, let's get along with the oppressor, right? He was talking. Let's get them out of here. Let's get away from them, right? And that's another fundamental difference. Where Dr. King, they were saying integration, but even Dr. King was really talking about integration. He was talking about equal opportunity because there used to be a thing called separate but equal, which once again goes back to Thurgood Marshall and the Board Brown v. Board of Education. The whole idea that you can have a separate institution, a white drinking fountain and a black drinking fountain. But whenever you look at those pictures of them white drinking fountains and them black drinking fountains, that black fountain does not look like that white fountain. The water does not flow as freely. And it's pressurized from that black fountain as it does from that white fountain. So that whole idea of separate but equal is a myth. It's always been a myth. It's always been some crap, right? It's separate but unequal in reality. And I wanted to show this because there's a concern now because, the farther away you get from things, you get like nostalgia. Even in Russia, there are people who have nostalgia for the old Soviet Union. And that was communist Russia where people stood online for bread for like 15 hours. They had nothing. Communism, literally bankrupt, figuratively and more, literally figuratively bankrupt ideology, right? And social economic, whatever. But you have people, and talk about the reverse the black migration, and the black people try to flee the South to get to the cities, get some freedom in America and equality. Let's reverse it. Let's go back down and let's segregate. Let's get away from it. But there's a thing now. Segregation didn't work for us. We need to leave them white people alone. Just focus on ourselves, do ourselves. Like we trying to resegregate ourselves. Like separate but equal is workable and feasible, but it's not. They know that. The opposite. And I say they, I mean the people who would like you to go back to being separate but equal, but then they could be on top and say what the hell, right? Because they was benefiting from it before. And so there's a lot of messaging. That's one of the reasons why I did this podcast too and this stuff. Because you look at the social media, there's a lot of messaging and stuff going on that people don't get. And you call it propaganda, you call it misinformation, you call it whatever, but it's actively going on. That's what social media is. You don't have to have official elections and politics. You got to say this ad was endorsed by this. But now you get these cats out there and they're paid agents of forces, right? With definite agendas, with definite social, economic, political, whatever agendas. But they don't say that, but then they put all this stuff out there into the blogosphere. They put it out there into the social media space, talking about whatever, like it's not really what it is. They're misrepresenting their true motives. And the average person, if you're not discerning, it's a lot of these kids and a lot of the people who consume this social media stuff, they don't get it. They're being messaging programmed. This is some real, oh man, Animal Farm and all that stuff. I can't remember his name right now, the guy who wrote it. But yes, and anyway. But this was Gil Noble talking about Malcolm X and the difference between Malcolm X and how when Malcolm X came on the scene, and he like arose uh, as a counterpoint to Martin Luther King, to Dr. King, and the civil rights movement and the integration, and how it was disturbing to Joe. He didn't understand how to take it. But there was a long tradition of that in the Black American community. When I say Black American, once again, the descendants of the Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and into slavery over here in America and in the rest of the New World. There's a tradition of dynamic opposites, we'll call that. Yin Yang is in Asian philosophy that I like, but it's dynamic opposites. You have one opinion over here, another opinion over here. In the civil rights movement era, 60s and 70s, you had Dr. King over here, Martin King and Malcolm X over here. Before them, you had Booker T. Washington over here and W.E.B. Du Bois over here, right? Talking about the same Black community, the same Black aspiration, the same Black stuff, but different ideas on how to achieve those ends. On a local level, when I spoke at David Lyons' funeral, some people got mad because I mentioned D. Bilal Beasley, who was the political mastermind and political boss of Black Irvington when I was there. He's the guy who the architect who built. You look at Irvington now and the political structure of Team Irvington, that's Bilal Beasley and Levy Jones. Someone Levy Jones who passed away. Bilal Beasley also passed away. But you had you had Chairman Chairman Jones, and then on the opposite, opposed to him in the township, in the borough, and local and small level, municipal level, he had Northwood Councilman David Lyons. David Lyons, which is the antithesis and the enemy, right? You just saw him interview Mayor Wayne Smith, and Wayne didn't want to throw no dirt on Dave, but Wayne Smith didn't like Dave because Dave was the other side, just like we had W.D. Bois and what's his name? And Malcolm X and Martin King. You had Bilal Beasley, who Wayne was on the Beasley side, and you had David Lyons over here, right? And so it was dynamic opposites. But those polarities, those counterposing and conflicting polarities, to me, are what keeps the entire Black community balanced and in sync, right? Because they pull us away, but most people are in between, right? But being in between is dynamic action and is keeping everybody on the right path, right? And us on our path, and we get good outcomes. You got to question power, right? Because once again, as Larry Ham said, power concedes nothing. And then the other thing, which I think why people really fear Trump, is when you got power, you got to use it. What is power? Before they say power corrupts, oh, I believe it's revealed. But even then, it's there to be used, right? If you're necessary, right? Cops have guns because they may need to use a gun to enforce the law. It's called, the use of appropriate force or adequate force. That's why, Chief Jay should be on here to direct my paraphrasing. But anyway, so here's Gilmore.
Staying. Not guy was very, very intimidating. I'm man enough to admit it. A lot of people who are my age who speak, with love about Malcolm is have always been that way.
I'll interrupt this because there's more, but what he's talking about is, and Larry Hamilton called it, speaking truth to power, right? That's another reason why America is the best country in the world. You can, we got freedom of speech. You can say some stuff and ain't nobody coming to your house at the end of the night, not legally, allegedly, not anymore. In the South, that's what the South was all about. You say some stuff they didn't like, and next you know, the Klan and Night Riders rolling up on you in the middle of the night, snatching people and lynching them. But technically speaking, legally speaking, on the law, it's how it's supposed to be. You can't do that. I can say what I want. You can't come and get me. But other countries, you criticize El Presidente, they coming to get you, baby. And not just you, but your wife, your daughter, your kids, everybody's going to disappear. And that's how it is in most of the rest of the world right now, today. Right? That's why everybody want to come here. Come to America, right? Let's keep it 100. You hear all this stuff. Oh, capital, shut up. Right? The Mantanis and everybody's talking about how bad capitalism is. It was so bad that your people came here willingly, voluntarily, which is also a difference from the Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and then sold into slavery here in America and New York. There's a fundamental difference. So that's why that whole immigrant narrative, give us your tires, you're free. Really? How did that work for Black Americans? Right? That's why a lot of people don't like. That's why Black American, the existence of Black Americans, when I say Black, I'm thinking of descendants of the Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, and enslaved. It's an embarrassment, and it puts the lie to that whole narrative of give me you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry. Really? You're yearning to be free. My grandma came here with 25 cents in her pocket. Look what I've done, and y'all ain't done nothing. Really? Was your grandma forced to work for 400 years? Actually, was she raped first, right? And had her kids stolen from her. And was she forced to work for 400 years for free? Or could she come here and work and earn some money and keep it in her pocket and build the stuff you're talking about? So, that's what he talked about, the hypocrisy. But let me go back. See, he's getting me going, right?
Mind you, I had this apartment, a bachelor apartment on Convent Avenue, and I've been having a lot of fun, you know. And here he comes talking about a different way of life. First of all, he dropped his last name. Well, we've been socialized to take great pride in our last name. More European it sounded, the better. There was not a flinch about, noble. Oh, that's wonderful. If it wasn't French enough, you put an ETT on it, to make it sound more French. And so here's a man who dropped his good last name and replaced it with an X. I thought the man was crazy. But what he was doing in deprecating whiteness, I came to understand later that he was rearranging the balance that we needed because we glorified.
Yeah, see, and that's Gil Noble, recipe. And looking at it in hindsight, 2020 hindsight, understand, because a lot of times you're in a moment, you don't get it. But that whole drop in the name, his birth name was Malcolm Little, right? He had West Indian roots. I think his dad was Jamaican or something. Dad got killed, some mysteriously stretched out over train tracks and let himself get run over, right? But his name was Little, but he changed his name to Malcolm X once he went to jail and accepted Islam. The form of Islam that was being taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which was really not the true form of Islam that's practiced by most of the world's religion, most of the religions here around the world. Elijah Muhammad's son, Wallace Dean Muhammad, and this was after Malcolm X was killed, but he followed Malcolm X. But he brought the Nation of Islam, which is the black Muslims, black Americans, black Muslims, into line with the world view of Islam. But in America, it was a different thing. The thing about Islam, black Muslims were Islam, Elijah Muhammad's version of Islam. It wasn't Christianity. Christianity had been, once you kidnap, you rape, and rob, they also brainwash you, take away your culture, your history, your roots, your religion. And then what they gave us was Christianity. And the message they put in your head is, God will let you go into heaven if you serve your master well in life. Right? It's like people laugh down and criticize the, Islamic or Islamic jihadists for saying, oh, be a martyr, you get virgins in heaven. Well, yes, the message that they were giving the black slaves and slave black Africans was serve your master. God wants you to serve your master. If you serve your master, you'll get in heaven. And so that's the message Christianity, they told that they were given. That's the version of Christianity given or put into the black Americans' head. And so you got to get around that. And part of it is that. And then also the names of the black slaves, those, they're anglicized. That's because slavery, they give you a name, but then your last name, it's just like in the Nordic countries where, they have daughter or daughter son or Thor's son, S-O-N or D-O-T-T-A, daughter, which is daughter, or son means the son of Thor, the daughter of whoever, right? So you had a name, and that last name was the name of your slave owner. I used to wonder about that. Why do we have all these names? Like you see, that's how you can tell black Africans today from black Americans, right? They got a lot of consonants and vowels in their names and letters, things that let them stand out. That's the easy way to tell. Look, they've anglicized their names, right? Like Barack Obama calling himself Barry, right? Unless they've changed their names, that's how you can tell they're Nigerian. They're not African. They got all these other Oyo widows and other stuff that's going on there. That's an easy way to tell the difference. Whereas you got a guy with an anglicized name, or Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan or whatever, which is like a European name. Yeah, that Jordan, that Jackson, that whatever, that comes from the slave owner. That's why reparations is easy. Trace that family name back. Where that family name comes from? Well, he got it from this guy who's the slave owner whose name was Jackson or Jordan, right? So come on. And he changed the name. So once again, like as Nova was saying, you reject that. And so he changed the name to Malcolm X, right? Because he don't know where his real family value name from. Or maybe he didn't back then, maybe he did. But he also, Malcolm X was the mentor and the teacher of Cassius Clay from Louisville, Kentucky, a Black American descendant from slaves. But when Cassius won a gold medal, then came home and got discriminated against and threw the gold medal away. So anybody, he's about treasure hunters. Anybody who go out there to that Kentucky River, at River in Kentucky, and can find Cassius Clay's gold medal, that's probably worth billions. So get your metal detectors, Black people in Kentucky out there, and go look at it. But yes, and so he came back and he did the hypocrisy of America after going abroad, much like Malcolm X did later on. And he come back, he didn't want to have that name, Cassius Clay. Moses said that a slave name. But he wanted to get down to the Nation of Islam, so they named him Muhammad Ali. That's why Muhammad Ali is called Muhammad Ali. I'm calling him the greatest, because Martin was, my name is Ali. And even he was in the fight, and the other boxer was trying to, mess with him, kept calling him Cassius Clay. And your mama named you Clay, I'm gonna call you Clay. And he's like, no, my name is Muhammad Ali. Got in the ring with that dude. He got footage of it. You can hear him talking to the guy, beating him hard, right? I mean, just wailing, just beating him, going, what's my name? What's my name? It's not funny. Well, it was a boxing match, but it was the point of it being, the dude was trying to diss him, but just put a nail in his own coffin. But the point was he changed his name. He got that from Malcolm X. No, the sad thing to me about what happened to Malcolm X is that after the Nation of Islam turned against Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali did too. I always personally hold that against Muhammad Ali. He turned against Malcolm X. You knew who this dude was. He's coming and telling you some stuff. If you really know who this dude is, how you going to not believe what he's telling you? And he just didn't. He went with the party line and whatever, and that's the politics of it. And then it turns out years later, it was revealed recently, right? There's a documentary on Netflix. Look at it for Malcolm X. The people who killed Malcolm X were Black Muslims, and they were from Newark, New Jersey, a mosque in Newark, New Jersey. And everybody knew it. Everybody in New Jersey knew it. That's what makes me angry. How everybody know it. It's a school in the south side of Newark. It was a Black stronghold, Black people, right? Malcolm X Shabazz High School. Shabazz used to be South Side High School. Now it's called Malcolm X Shabazz High School. But that's how people revered and admired and looked up to Malcolm X. He changed the name of the school to Malcolm X. And there's a large Black Muslim, Black American Nation of Islam presence, economic, political, social, in Newark and in New Jersey, Essex County. Yeah, the Black Muslims are strong. And the people who killed Malcolm X, who assassinated him and shot him up, were from Newark. Black people from Newark, right? They don't talk about who gave the orders, right? But so I don't like that either, right? Personally. So that's just something. But that was one thing I wanted to talk to Mary Smith about. Moving on. This is protesters from Arizona accused of punching federal agent at Newark ICE jail. In the current headlines now, in Newark, New Jersey, there's a place called Delaney Hall. Delaney Hall has always been a holding facility for whatever use that they wanted to use it for. But once ICE, because ICE used to be called ICE, right? ICE is a relatively new thing. It's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It used to be immigration separate, customs was separate, but they combined it. And ICE uses Delaney Hall in Newark to hold illegal immigrants or suspected illegal immigrants, people that they catch who was not who they see, or they believe, or they suspect, or illegal, have entered this country legally and have stayed here and worked and whatever. They detain them at Delaney Hall, and it's right there in Newark. And current Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, who's the son of Amiri Baraka, who used to be called Leroy Jones from North Ward of North, but he changed his name to Amiri Baraka, world-renowned poet, political activist, and revolutionary. Just like Larry Ham, cut from the same cloth, same generation, same area, same city, same movement, right? Straight revolutionary dudes. And his son's name is Raz Baraka, right? And Baraka means son. And how I know that? Because when I was in school, there was a kid named Baraka, and he said his father's name is Baraka because he was his son, right? And but his name is Raz Baraka, and he's currently the mayor of the city of New Jersey. But Raz Baraka has always had beef with Delaney Hall, especially when I started using it, and so he's been trying to legally close them down from the gate. He didn't want them in Newark, don't like what they're doing, get them out of here, right? And so back in 2024, right before, because right around the time, right before, because Newark had a gubernatorial election, I mean, New Jersey had a gubernatorial election, they had a Democratic primary right before the, what's for 2024 when Trump got reelected, whatever. But, and Ras Baraka ran for governor. And he did an inspection. He had previously gone and inspected Delaney Hall before, but he wanted to do an inspection at Delaney Hall, and he was with Representative LaMonica McIver. I'm not sure about her name. I'm not as familiar with her as I am with Ras Baraka. But Ras Baraka, he helped form something along with Keisha Yuri, Sharif Amenhotep, Bashir Akinyele, a group in Newark called the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. And just like P.O.P, the People Organization for P.O.P and Larry Ham are out there protesting, the NAVC, Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, that's what their thing. They, violence happens, some kind of random shooting or killing or whatever, and they pop out. Ras Baraka, Bashir Akinyele, Sharif Amenhotep, Keisha Yuri, all those guys, they jump out there and they have a protest and a rally to bring attention to the fact that this was some senseless violence in the Black community, right? So the respect I have for Ras Baraka is, you talk about words and action, 10 toes down, standing on business, being about it, living that life. Yeah, he do it. He come from that life because his dad was a Amiri Baraka, but he's out there doing it, right? You talk about generations following and carrying the banner forward. He's carrying that banner forward. The next, of empowerment from civil rights and revolutionary and all this stuff, right? But he had beef with Delaney Hall, so him and LaMonica, Representative LaMonica McIver, go down here to inspect it. Somewhere along the line, and this is right after Trump got elected, he appointed a attorney general to New Jersey, to the federal government, gets appointed attorney general. And she's not here anymore. She was a woman, and she was combative. She's one, Trump MAGA person, right? She's ready to get in there and get some business done, right? And so you got these Democrats, because Rocky was a Democrat and Monica McIver was a Democrat. They want to come and review, and she just standing on MAGA business going, nah, whatever. So what should have just been a routine inspection, somehow or another, it went bad. And it went bad to the point where I think McIver got maced, and it was like physicalities, and they had a prosecutor. And right now, McIver is facing charges because of that, right? That are unfounded, totally unfounded, that Trump appointee put on her as a report of that, because it was just been routine. But it also happened to happen during the Democratic primary while Ras Baraka was running for governor. So he got, as a journalist, it's been frustrating for me, but it really is the truth. But there's no such thing as bad news, right? One thing that's bad is that nobody's ever talking about it. So even though it was bad that his routine, what should have been a routine inspection at Delaney Hall, went bad and turned violent and confrontational, and people got arrested and got charged, it was good for him because it was a good look for him running for governor. Right? He got a lot of free publicity. Next thing you know, you got other guys who try to run for governor or get the Democratic Party nomination to run for governor running down there too. But it was too late, right? Ras had already done it, right? And Ras was trying to downplay it like, oh, it ain't a big deal. But it was a big deal. And because, it's about Big Brother, but the Democratic Party is always watching. The DNC, the National Security Democrats, popular, and New Jersey is a very important Democratic state. It's small, and it's New York though, but New Jersey is powerful and relevant and influential, and people watch what goes on here. And how could you not like Rod? I tell you, he checks all of the bona fides boxes for Black leadership, all of them. You look around Rocker, that's it, right? Walking, talking embodiment of it, in my opinion. And So you fast forward, Roz runs, and the Democratic Party does not endorse Roz. And so he does not win the party nomination to become governor. Mikey Sherrill, who's a representative from Montclair, ex-military pilot, I think, and she wins, right? All of the New Jersey Democratic Party start all of the parties. Every county has a Democratic committee, which is the party for that county. Hudson County, Essex County, Newton County, Moore County, all of them. All of them go for Dr. Sherrill, right? And so she wins, right? But it's not as big a win as you thought it would be, right? Because Ras Baraka had a very good showing. If you ask me, look at the numbers, look at the reports. He did pretty good, especially when the Democratic Party in his own city, his own community, did not back him. When really the state Democratic machine went against him, he still had a pretty good showing, if you ask me. Right? So to me, you talk about relevance and power. Yeah, all right. So the lesson here, I want to say boys and girls, I'm a teacher, is they talk about Pyrrhic victories or sometimes a loss is a win. But yeah, sometimes, especially in politics, if you lose the election but have a very strong showing, then that's good for you. It happened to Barack Obama. He didn't win the first time around, but he made that speech. Everybody heard that speech and said, who is this Barack Obama? It happened to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, when he first ran for governor of California, before he ran for the presidency, he lost. But he made a speech. They talk about it like a legend, the shining city on a hill speech. And he said a speech that was so profound and poignant that all, the Republicans who were there said, oh, they tell you now, they said, their first thought was, we picked the wrong guy. But he had to wait 4 years after that, right? And that launched him to become the president, Ronald Reagan. I mean, that's that's when I talk about it. That's what I'm talking about. And so Barack Obama, he had one of those moments when he lost that Democratic Party nomination. This is when Bush was running for the second time. But he was the light. He was the bright spot at that Democratic convention because that speech he made about we're not one America but two America, where it was, but it was profound. Because even I was moved on. Damn, that was high. That's where he made his bones. That launched him to become president, and he became, in my opinion, a mediocre president. At best. Yeah. But anyway, we won't go there. But the point I'm making is, fast forward, Sherrill wins governor, and then for some reason, this past Memorial Day, I don't know, Memorial Day, Labor Day, right at the start of summer, Governor Mikey Sherrill and Senator Andy Lai, who got to be the senator of New Jersey to fill a seat that was open, because he protested the statewide New Jersey Democratic machine wanted to give it, former Governor Phil Murphy's wife, allegedly, you gotta say allegedly, right? Because I was not there, reportedly or allegedly, wanted to become the senator, much like Hillary Clinton became a senator in New York State after her and President Clinton left the White House. But Andy Lau said, no, hey, wait a minute. We don't want her. I don't want her. And he filed a lawsuit protested her appointment without, due process and the due process. To make a long story short, Andy Lau won. He ran and he won. You got Andy Lau, who's kind of like a rebellious outsider type dude. He doesn't inspire people to go, yeah, you can beat the system, right? In New Jersey now, once upon a time, the line meant a lot. If you got line A, because what it is easy for voters to figure out who to vote for. If you're a Democrat and everybody Democrats on line A, you go into the voting booth, you see line A, you just hit every box for line A, and you're good to go. But Andy Lau changed that. He said, no, you can't have that. We can't have everybody on that line anymore. You got to spread them out. You got to break them up. You can't run like that. The people can run the ticket, but on the ballot, they're not going to all be together anymore. And when they weren't all together like that, he won, right? And so he actually changed New Jersey law, and it's stuck there right now. But so him and for some reason, Governor Mikey Sherrill and Andy Lau show up at Delaney Hall. And you go, right? And they go there for inspection, whatever, and it goes bad, right? Even though that appointee that Trump made is gone, the people running Delaney Hall, it goes bad. Andy Lau gets maced, right? Mikey Sherrill, something happened to her. It becomes confrontational and it just goes bad. But when Mikey Sherrill also got in office, she passed laws saying the ICE agents can't have masks. They can't. They can't operate in New Jersey wearing those masks. She passed a lot of anti-ICE, not a lot, a few, I guess, policies and regulations once she got elected. You know, because New Jersey's a blue state, right? And so this is blue state, anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, anti-ICE. That's on and popping. So they show up at they show up at the Delaney Hall, goes bad, this is this, whatever, whatever. Then they leave. They make some headlines like Rossberger did, and they leave, right? But then after Cheryl and Lau are gone, these other protesters come. These anti-ICE people descend upon Delaney Hall from other places, right? And they come and they get out there, and when you hear a lot of stuff from conservatives about Antifa and about paid political activists, and whenever they see like George Floyd protesters, the conservatives and the deep state guy, they all go, man, those are paid protesters. They've been paid by the Democratic Party to go out there and act up and fill out everything, right? As if it's not organic, it's not like regular people getting outraged and taken to the streets. But after Cheryl and Lau, all these protesters start showing up, and they're not just out there to hold up signs and stuff like and protest and chant and try to bring light to an issue like P.O.P does with Larry Ham, or like the NABC did with Roz and they confrontational. They want to block. They want to get in front of the cop cars and obstruct them. The employees leaving, and they want to do stuff. They want to cause stuff, right, to the point where it was making headlines, and that's what they came for, to make headlines, right? So, like not like this is a blue state, it's a safe place. We can go there and act up. It's all good. Ain't nobody gonna hurt, right? To the point where Mikey Sherrill, who in my opinion, opened and her and Andy Lau, or Lau, I keep on Andy Lau. Maybe I don't know who his name is, Andy Lau. If not, then I might be being slightly, prejudiced or biased. And I'm saying racist, but I might be, putting his name because there's a Chinese Hong Kong actor named Andy Lau, famous, a good actor too. I like him in a lot of good movies. And so I hope I'm not giving Senator Lau any love. I'm just gonna call him Senator Lau. But stay out there, whatever. So Mikey Sherrill, in response to this, because as the government, you got to be a law enforcement, you got to be a right law and order person. After she went out there with Andy, after she got there with Senator Lau for whatever reason, she's got to now. You got to stop, put the lid back on, which she's been popped off, in my opinion. And she goes, "Hey, we don't want nobody from coming from outside New Jersey coming here to start trouble." She's sending the state troopers, right? And what do the state troopers do when they get there? They let them know that this is not Minnesota. New Jersey is not Minnesota. New Jersey is not Illinois. New Jersey is wherever y'all thought it was okay to do that type of stuff, to go out there and, be provocative or whatever you want to call it. Nah, we ain't having that. And the troopers went in there and did what New Jersey state troopers do, right? Put the clamps down, arrest the people, shut them down, right? And but that's what law enforcement does. It enforces the law. That's why I say chief takes the cop. So listen, in ABC, I gotta, it'll be a different episode. But yes, Bashiak and Yele, those guys, they don't like chief takes. You wanna know why? Because they tried to do a NABC protest, but it went south for some reason. And the police, the ultimate power is the power to arrest and charge, right? So that means when in doubt, arrest them. Once you arrest them and charge, then you as a citizen, as an individual, you're on the defensive now. You're on the other side. You have to prove your innocence. So even though I was there in the early police department when NABC and Akim Bashir and those guys came in there to get the permits, I saw them talking to Chase, talking to the what's name about what they wanted to do, how they was going to do it, because they was trying to do it as law appropriate as possible. And I give them credit for that. I give them credit to the chief and the guy that gave to them that. And it seemed like it was all good because they came to protest a pregnant girl and her boyfriend getting shot over on Grove Street. Killed her, the baby, and dude, right? Just random stuff on Myrtle Avenue. Crazy, right? Gun violence. And but when the actual protest came, the parameters of the protest are under dispute because just like those protesters are here, punching for those people, blocking cars. That was not part of the deal that chasing the other IPD said that they did. They said we ain't blocking no interceptions. We're not diverting no traffic. You can march along and go, but we ain't obstructing nothing. We're not calling no whatever, whatever. That's what that's the deal that Chaseman believed, and the law enforcement believed they side. Whereas part of the NABC's strategy and their tactics and their regular things, what they always do is, and it's well known because they had got coverage before. They go and they show up, but then they block an intersection because they want to attract attention to the issue. So you got to stop people. You got to literally call people to stop for however long, a few moments, whatever, to think about what happened to bring the NABC out there. And there's a nice tactic that happened in Newark. It was well-known strategy they do, right? Not the ordinary. But apparently they did not negotiate that with chasing the IPD. Because when they went to do that, to block the traffic over there on Myrtle Avenue and what's that? Myrtle Avenue, Madison Avenue, whatever, because they didn't have cops there to facilitate, the security to facilitate the protest in the march. The cops was going, hey, nobody said you could block traffic. And they going, yes, we did. We talked to the chief. Da, 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 da. And they said, no, we didn't. Yes, we did. No, we didn't. Yes, we did. And again, back and forth between the protesters and the cops, and it was going whatever. And somebody called the chief, right? And it was getting out of hand. And so when the chief got there, this is why I say he's like Wyatt Earp, right? And this is what I say about the state troopers coming down to the Lincoln Hall. It's funny, not funny, but it's totally in character with Chase for me. And it also is what cops do. This is why people don't understand police work. They don't really get it. He got there and he looking around and they're telling him this is this and other telling him this. He's like, you know what? No, it's not. Arrest them all. I'll put a stop to it right now. Arrested them all, brought them in, turned out the people at NABC had some warrants on them for whatever, domestic, not domestic, but child support, whatever. Because once you get arrested, they put you in there. They want to throw back on thing. Then they find you. And if you got warrants or something, they're going to pick it up and they're going to reapply it. And all of a sudden, you got to pay bail to get out. So you on the other side. That's the ultimate power that police have, right? It's the power to arrest and put charges on you. So they ain't got to have no debate. There ain't no whatever. Really? I'm a cop. I think it is. Whatever. You're not on the plot. Arrest them. But that's in America. That is really what it comes down to, and that's what Keith Chase did. And so Bashir and those guys are pissed. I got a picture of Bashir at an event where Chase was speaking, and Bashir was there too. And he's sitting in that chair, and Chase at the podium speaking, and Bashir has his head down like, man, I can't believe this, right? And because I'll tell you, I saw it with my own eyes. He was there in the police headquarters trying to get permits to do it all the right way. And then when it actually happened and it went south for whatever reason, they brought the full weight of the justice down on it. And I call them the NABC 6 or the NABC. And it was protested. And it was definitely not fair at all. It was a misunderstanding, but when the misunderstanding, when the police have jurisdiction or whatever, they get a lawyer, baby. And the lawyer for money. It has some money for bail too. And that's the end of the dispute, right? And yeah, Chase got no remorse about that because he's a cop, right? And but anyway, so that's what the state troopers did to these protesters. They got there, the Lady Hall, they started acting stupid. What? In the protest. And arrested them. And lo and behold, when they arrested the people who were causing the problems, they were not from New Jersey. Right? They were from someplace else. And so they were bringing their model or wherever place else, that drama here to New Jersey, to Delaney Hall to bring attention to the ICE issue situation at Delaney Hall. But once again, we don't do that in Jersey. That's not how it's done here. And also it's unnecessary because, like I said, Mayor Baraka has already been trying to close Delaney Hall for a minute. And he hasn't initiated legal procedures against them, right? And so it's not necessary, it wasn't necessary for Michael Sherrill and Senator Loud to show up here. This is a process all the way. And in actuality, after she ordered in the troops, because then, as you know, the protesters got mad. And that's what, how are you going to do that? That's fascistic. Well, yeah, I shouldn't have come with that. But then Cheryl turns around because she got to correct the mistake that she started, right? In my opinion. And she passes a law or to provide more funding to the lawsuit against Delaney Hall and the people running Delaney Hall that Mayor Baraka had already started. So they're getting more money now, which is what you should have done in the first place instead of going there with a lie, right? But that's neither here nor there. But this is the report. This is been going on. But their protests are right outside of Delaney Hall right now. And this is what, July 25th? And this report was June 11th. So here, I gave you all that background, right? Talk. This is what I mean. I say you got to go back and revise because my first one was much shorter than this. But I'm pretty sure these little segments is getting longer.
York, prosecutors say an agent pulled 31-year-old Mariano Perez, who refused to move. That's when they say Perez threw the punch.
Right. It said, and this is from New Jersey Shade, which is on Instagram. It says, a protester from Arizona is facing federal charges after authorities say she punched a Homeland Security agent during a protest in Newark. Right? Investigators say the incident happened Friday outside Delaney Hall, a private ICE detention facility. Officials released photos from the scene showing the alleged assault with the entrance to the building. More on news12newjersey.com. So New Jersey Shade is, I guess, the local variation of the Shade is on Instagram is like a news site called Shade, but this is New Jersey Shade, and they got this news from New Jersey. But yeah, right? You're gonna put hands on the cop. Larry Ham would not do that. The NABC would not do that. I told Larry Ham he needs to come out here and get a protester some lessons on how to do protests in Jersey, right? Because listen, one of the points of pride for Larry Ham, also Mayor Baraka, and I would give personally say media to the community in the city of Newark in general, doing all that George Floyd stuff during the pandemic, where all those protests that happened every place turned not violent, but like riotous. Now, I don't want to say riot because they'll tell you because Larry Ham has got to say it was like uprisings of protest. But looting, breaking, getting out of control did not happen in Newark. And you had a lot of people go down there to do that George Floyd thing. And there was no issues, no problem, no competition, nothing like what you saw in Minnesota or Chicago or any place else. Nothing like you saw in Nashville, nothing. And that's how you do it in Jersey. What is this here? Oh yeah, this hold on, put this down. I put this here because this is an interview I did with Mayor Smith. I talked before about how Hillary Clinton gets credit for making the phrase "it takes a village to raise a child" popular here in America. The African proverb that shows you how long the Africans been working around in Democratic Party politics, right? After the bottom of it. But this was years ago. And she said it takes a village to raise a child. And that is very poetic and nice, right? But that's only part of it. The other thing is, and after I said it takes a village to raise a child, but the second part is after that child is grown, it belongs to the village. Well, that means like the parental rights. That means, yeah, this village helps you raise your kid, but that kid is ours. The village is not really yours anymore. That goes against American parental jurisdiction and instincts, right? So they never give you the second half of that. They never talk about that. But no parent is going, oh, you can have my child do whatever you want. Well, they're going, nah, that's my baby, right? And so, but she's known for that. It takes a village. But what I think she should be known for, personally, which is 100%, and I give her personal credit for it, because she's Bill Clinton's wife and she was the first lady for 8 years. Also has helped me. She was like the closest thing to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, was a great helpmeet, and she was like co-president with him. And so Hillary was kind of like that with Bill, right? Bill Clinton. But and people forget now, but because people don't like Obama, conservatives, MAGA people, or whatever you want to call them, they don't like Obama. But man, those same people, and not more, they hated Bill Clinton. And I can't stress enough. When I say hated, I cannot put enough emphasis on hate. They just did not fuck with Bill Clinton, don't want to fuck with him, hate him. Just the hell, right? They just couldn't stand him, right? And part of the reason why they couldn't stand him is because black people loved him. That's why they called Bill Clinton the first black president. I personally call Bill Clinton the first black president because he put black people in more appointed positions than Barack Obama did. He gave them powerful positions, relevant positions, not just symbolic crap, right? And but beloved by black people. But the conservatives thought he was just who were not loved by black people. They thought he was just a charlatan, a faker, but he had that charisma, he had that it thing that I was talking about with Mayor Smith and these other guys. And so they, the whole that's when the Monica Lewinsky thing came up, despite all the good that he had done. Listen, man, people don't know, and it has not been publicized, but Bill Clinton tried to kill Osama bin Laden or assassinate him, whatever you want to call him, way before 9/11. They had identified him as a threat. When America was over in Somalia with that Black Hawk Down stuff, they tried to stick a missile up Osama bin Laden's butt. They missed though. But they didn't get a chance to try again because the Monica Lewinsky stuff happened, and the Republicans hated Bill Clinton so much that they let it affect national, international, every kind of policy. But if he didn't have to deal with that Monica Lewinsky stuff, with them trying to impeach him and just doing everything political to derail the Clinton presidency, then they probably would have off Osama bin Laden a long time before he ever got to do 9/11, right? And that would have never happened if they had let Bill Clinton just be president. But they didn't because they hated him so much, right? And so the hate was so vitriolic and visible, that Hillary Clinton said there's a vast right-wing conspiracy at work in this country. And she was 1,000,000% correct, right? There is a vast right-wing conspiracy. She said conspiracy because it was totally directed and focused at her husband and her when he was president and she was first lady and they were in office. But it's also at work here in general, which is what people don't understand when black people will never say systemic racism. Yes, like I said, Woodrow Wilson from Princeton University here in New Jersey, liberal university, Ivy League, right? He becomes president and he's showing Birth of a Nation, which was celebrated the Ku Klux Klan. And we kind of reimagined the Civil War, right? It wasn't about slavery. It was about heroic Southern white people. Right? And they're still here. They're still now. He's in an interview with Mayor Smith. He said that they're still around. He called them the Tea Party people. And he's right. The Tea Party is New Gringos. Because what it is that's why America is the best country in the world. You get what I call quiet revolutions. Martin King said that the pendulum swings back and forth, but that the arc of the universe bends towards justice. That even though it swings back and forth, extreme right, extreme left, whatever in the middle, in general, here in America, he was talking about humanity, but really, I call it what Dr. Booth talking about America and Americans and why Americans are different. They say we have American exceptionalism. It's true because we don't really think that we're bad people. And if you don't think you're a bad person, you don't think the things that you do are bad. You don't think that the reasons why you do the things that you do are bad. And you don't really root for bad outcomes unless you're a bad person. And there are bad Americans. But generally speaking, most Americans are not bad. They're not really trying to hurt somebody. They just want to live their stuff and freedom, just whatever, right? And so Dr. King said, depending on swings, but the arc of the universe bends towards justice, right? And so the vast right wing conspiracy that Hillary Clinton correctly identified and observed and pointed out, they are never sleeping, man. They're always at work. Like I said, Wayne Mayor Smith called it the Tea Party. Right now it's the MAGA. But before that, it was the Christian Coalition. It was the Christian Right. It was all these different things, right? Ralph Reed and those guys. But even Ralph Reed, who's Christian Coalition, as conservative as you get, Christian national as you get, right? Ralph Reed said on a record, I give him credit for this, and he's as MAGA, conservative, whatever. He said, and we're seeing it play out even now with black people in the Republican Party. Why black people won't listen to Republicans, right? Why Democrats run around racism for so long to get black people not to listen to the Republican civil stuff. He said that the major mistake that the conservatives, Republicans, conservative party, really conservatives, and even the Christian nationalists that they made Christian and the Christian coalition that he was leading, that they made, where they came out on the wrong side of the civil rights movement. He acknowledged, we shouldn't, as Christians, we should not be out here trying to deny human beings their rights and freedom, right? And he was the leader. He was, Ralph Reed was the voice. That man, he was the leader. I don't know who's leading now, but he said that on a record as they were leaving, right? He said that was a mistake. That was bad, right? Because if you look at those pictures of the lynchings and stuff, they were having like church festivals. You go to church and lynch a nigga, like go to church and lynch a black person, and they be out there and they're Sunday finest, just having got out of church. Christian, supposedly, allegedly, good, nice Southern Christian people or wherever, because it wasn't just the South where lynches and stuff happened. And you just came from church hearing about God and humanity and brotherhood, and you out here lynching black people. What's going on, right? But that's how it's been. In America, that's why it's got 3 kings in my way I study. But this is gonna be a long video, right? It should have been short. But anyway, that vast right-wing conspiracy that she's talking about, it is still at work. And this is one of the things. The Guardian newspaper is like the New York Times for Great Britain and the UK, the way the New York Times is the New York Times for America, the rest of the world, right? And it said the right-wing alliance it's called the Right-Wing Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, called ARC. I tell you, I like acronyms, right? Summit, dubbed the quote anti-woke Davos, says it seeks to quote relay the foundations of our civilization. The summit, co-founded by Jordan Peterson, brought together in London anti-abortionists, Trump administration officials, global right-wing figures, and their multi-millionaire backers as protesters in fossil-free London gathered outside. The Guardian's political correspondent, Ben Quinn, who attended the event, breaks down the key figures at the controversial event, where speakers included the reform leader, Nigel Farage, the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, Sarah B. Rogers, who has attacked policies on hate speech and immigration, and Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation. A leading think tank on the American right wing. This is the right wing conspiracy that Hillary Clinton is talking about. The Heritage Foundation. Yeah, that's right wing, baby. They go to work, they go to sleep, they're set up, they're 24/7 thinking about, right? Thinking about ways to undo the civil rights movement, ways to roll back stuff, thinking about conservative causes and policies and things like that. And so it's, talk about in terms of, man, it's not personal, it's business, but that's their business. The businesses do that. So you see this stuff like the voting rights site, you see stuff like Federal investors getting struck down. That's because of organized opposition from the conservative right wing, this vast right wing conspiracy that Hillary Clinton talked about. And so this, to me, when they're talking about global, and then you see it happening around the world because, these other countries, America is the way, and you got these countries like Britain and France and all these European countries that after World War II, America tried to dilute their racist colonizer instincts by making them accept people from other countries and other religions. But they're tired of that stuff. They've been tired since the Syrian Revolution, right? And they want to get all them other people who are not European out of it, right? And so here is this ARC conference.
I'm here at what's been called the anti-woke Davos, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, co-founded by Jordan Peterson. It's a yearly conference which brings together the key figures on the right from more than 85 countries. So just from Britain alone, we've got Reform leader Nigel Farage, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch. We've got people from the culture wars like Constantine Kishin, Nigel Farage's advisor James Orr, and the gender-critical charity Sex Matters. They're going to be rubbing shoulders with European far-right parties and a large number of Americans. I've just been listening to Chris Ryan right, US Energy Secretary.
We need to become energy dominant.
One other controversial figure is Kevin Roberts. He's the president of the Heritage Foundation, one of the architects of Project 2025. It's also half political conference, half evangelical rally. What we're seeing here are organizations like the Alliance for Defending Freedom, the American activist group who had a big part in rolling back Roe versus Wade. They're also ramping up their activities in the UK. We also have before us, led by a woman called Katie Feist, leading figure in a coalition of seeking to push back on gay marriage. Hostility to the climate crisis are actually also one of the themes. A little earlier, we heard Bjorn Lomborg, the Danish climate scientist, downplaying the impacts of the climate crisis. Some of the money figures who are here are some of the key people who have emerged in the background as influential figures in the rise of new right. They include Paul Marshall, the owner of GB News, who is actually one of the backers of our. Also listed as attending is Ben Dilo, who gave Reform UK £4 million, as well as corporate entities Palantir, Rio Tinto, and Anduril, the US maker of drones. It's important for people to pay attention to what's going on here because many of the ideas being discussed here barely a few years ago were actually quite fringe.
That's quite right.
And in some ways, what they're doing here is shaping the narrative. This is a gathering of people who can't really be ignored.
Listen, what he mentioned before about why it's important to go with things like that, I agree. And because, like I said, Trump just got reelected, what, 2024, 2025, right? I was in grad school, and a teacher happened to have a professor happened to have a friend whose daughter works at the New York Times, who's a reporter, and she brought her in to talk to us. And the reporter talked about the story she had done. One day I'll do a podcast about this, what she shared it. And it was about it, even though Trump was out of office after that January 6th stuff, down there at Mar-a-Lago, she had been sent to just post up and see who's coming and going from Mar-a-Lago. Who's coming and going. And she reported on what she saw and what was going on down there. And so people and all the ideas that were being thrown around, like this guy's talking about the ideas and stuff, shaping the narrative at that art conference over there in Europe. The stuff that she reported on, and this was before Trump got reelected, and the New York Times, they ran a story about what she put it in, but they didn't run it prominently. I think it was just online stuff. They didn't publicize it, right? The people were coming by, all these MAGA people coming down there to bend the knee to Trump and kiss the ring or whatever, that he's doing stuff. And the stuff they were talking about doing that she reported on, they're doing that stuff right now that he is the president. So that's why he said those conferences are important. Because they're still sitting, they go, why are they doing this? How did they get to this point? It ain't a mistake. Right? This has been planned. Like I said, the 2025 stuff, you saw that coming down the pipe. And yet you saw it coming, but you did nothing to stop it or prevent it or offset it in terms of the Democratic Party. So that makes you wonder what the hell is going on. Right? And so that's why I can't feel sorry. Because you driving the car, you see a pothole, you're going to drive in the pothole, you're going to go around the pothole, you're going to report the pothole to be filled in. What you going to do? You don't got to go into the pothole. Right? And so anybody complain about how America is now, that's why I don't want to fault the New York Times, but add some suspect stuff to me, man, because the list of the stuff that she was reporting in the story she wrote that they I think they ran on her website, or was a video like a blog or whatever, that should have been given more prominence to me prior to the election, because I think it would have swayed voters to go out against Trump. And so why, if you were a New York Times, if you were a media outlet, why wouldn't you put that story out there? That might influence an election, unless you don't want to influence the election. And let's remember, W. Bush, there was not an agent, but there was a New York Times reporter who was so pro, who did all that stuff about weapons of mass destruction and yellow cake. That was all bad reporting with bad information. And there's allegedly, whether she knew it was bad or not, but it was New York Times leading the way for that Iraqi reason. Not leading the way, but they weren't doing their job. Talk about a sleep at the switch, right? Or their due diligence, whatever you want to call it. But boy, everybody remembers Colin Powell getting up there lying to the UN or not telling the truth about the yellow cake and weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, that report, that lie that he told was based off reporting from the New York Times. And if the New York Times is going to run it, it must be legit, right? or not run it in the case of people who were going down there to powwow with Trump before he got reelected again, to plan out what they're doing right now. I knew that. See, and I got a lot. I'm not going more. I have to chop this up. This one here was interesting to me because it's like we had the Supreme Court talking about voting rights or redoing different parts of the Voting Rights Act. It's like the Supreme Court giveth and the Supreme Court taketh away. This is why I tell you, American is give and take, depending on back and forth and swing, and this is this, and not all bad and not all good or whatever. Because the same Supreme Court that redid the Voting Rights Act, right, and said you can't use race and go on this life, came out and made a ruling that said, yeah, if you're black and you're a driver and you're in America, black male specifically, and you get pulled over by the cops, you do have the right, the reality that there could be some kind of crazy outcome. It ain't just your imagination. And the Supreme Court said this. Right here, this is from Revolt News. The headline is Supreme Court upholds ruling that recognizes black men may experience police stops differently. The subheading is the decision could lead to legal protections being granted more strictly for black people. See, and that Democratic Party plantation video, she talked about AAPI, the law that was protecting them. They got a legal protection, AAPI. They are legally in a protected group in America. Asian American Pacific Islanders, they're legally protected in America. Don't fuck with the Asian American Pacific Islanders. Black people don't have those kind of protections, which is why you can't get criminal justice reform. You can't get any kind of reform. It's just, hey, comply with the law. And that's why that sub-headline, this decision could lead to legal protections being granted more strictly for black people, right? Just like AAPI got after the fact. See, and this is what I mean about being a black in America. That's why I give props to KRS-One. Because KRS-One, I give him credit because he says that, that's why I don't fear for black Americans either. Because he said, listen, man, black Americans are unique in that we don't have any other place in the world to look to and say that that's our home. That we as a people, we are the descendants of the black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, and then sold enslaved over here. We are the only group that's really coming of age within this American system, this American thing. Capitalism, we are, I think we're the only real true Americans, but as a group, yeah, this American stuff is us, right? And so we have to come of age. So even though we did not create the system, we're in it, we're integral to it, we're part of it. And so we have to learn how to navigate it at all levels. And so just like AAPI got their protection, we've never been able to get a protection like that. Like I said, Cory Booker and Tim Scott, they're talking about police reform, couldn't get nothing done. There's no political will on Capitol Hill to protect black people from criminal justice and bad police stops and police use of excessive force. There's no will to do that. But here you have this, which could be, it says it could lead, could, maybe would, but who knows. But anyway, this thing goes, the Supreme Court upheld the DC court's ruling that the race of a person who has been stopped by police can factor into that person's perception of the encounter in ways that impact their constitutional right. The ruling affirms the idea that black men may have a, quote, reasonable belief that they are not free to walk away from police stops, and that police, therefore, may have a greater duty to protect the stopped person's rights in such cases. By declining to intervene, the Supreme Court is allowing this race-conscious standard, which could lead to legal protections being granted more strictly for black people. It's posted by Revolt News. And yes, that is very profound significant, right? Because they're saying, okay, that's admitting, all right, driving while black is a real thing. Racial profiling is a real thing, right? If you're black and you put up by a cop, yeah, you might not survive the experience, right? Which is what black people have been saying. But nobody goes, that's not true. Just comply. Everything will be fine. Yeah, all right. And so there it is, lead to protection. And then they talk about the other thing is race conscious, because The Democrats said it first. We're in a post-racial America. And now the Republicans have picked it up. They don't want to go to the Democrats, kind of don't want that in it. And the Republicans and the other people that racism doesn't exist anymore. We don't need to have all black voting districts anymore. We don't need an affirmative action before because everything's free and open and meritocratic now. It's a meritocracy. You don't have to do that. But by the Supreme Court allowing this, not ruling against this law that, like I said, is race conscious, saying that black people, black men, right, may not be treated the same as a white man or Asian man or a Spanish guy when they get put over by cops. That kind of not offsets, but it kind of goes, the opposite. Once again, yin yang, how we made it. The other end or antithesis of this idea that the cops treat everyone the same. When I get pulled over, and my name is Joe White, and I am one, then it's okay. The black person, they just comply. Stop being such a big problem. The only problems you have is when you don't do what the officer, that fine and righteous upstanding officer tells you to do. Right? Which is bullcrap. But so you had a ruling about that. Like I said, America's funny, but that's why it's the best place in the because you get, dynamic opposites. That's what they said in the Fist of the North Star anime. The universe is composed of dynamic opposites. And that's in the Eastern philosophy, that's yin and yang, right? Positive and negative. But it's the truth, though. Right? And so here, so after that, go to the next one. Go to the next one. Oh, this one was about I'll cut down. About a cop. I think it's in New York City, but he must have got into it with some guy, and the guy, because being a cop is a tough job, because they actually have to. This is why you should deadly force and use of guns and people get shot and killed, because they out there. People committing crimes want to commit those crimes, and the way to get them to stop committing those crimes is to make them stop committing those crimes. And a lot of times, you got to use force to make them stop doing their crime. If you're not prepared to use force, don't be a cop. Right? And the force could end up being deadly force, means somebody gets killed. But the chokehold, the mace, the spray, the stick, you gotta, right? There's a video I just saw the other day of some Indian police in India. They caught these 3 guys harassing college students. And so they were punishing them. And the punishment was you gotta sit there on the ground, and the guy the officer with a big old cane is beating the bottom of your feet. And they had to sit there and let this cop beat the bottom of their feet. Right? I don't know if that's corporal. I don't know if we consider that corporal punishment here in America, but we don't do that. In America, they just arrest them and put them in jail, right? Which is a good thing. But they were just beating them on the feet. Don't be over there harassing kids no more. But that's how the rest of the world is, right? Which is why America is better, where everybody wants to come here. But yeah, in this video, the cop got into it. And listen, this when the cop gets into a fight, they could lose that fight. And this cop lost that fight. And when he lost that fight, the alleged perpetrator, simulated dominating him, which is like first in house rape, is like, humping him. So we don't need to see that. But that's what that was interesting because, yeah, cops, they out there enforcing the law. But that's why they say they put their lives in the lives and they fear for their lives. Yeah, because of the situation that cop was in right there, that guy is on top of him, dominating him. He had him totally at that cop's mercy. If that cop had a gun, he could have took the gun, killed the cop, beat the cop. He could have done anything he wanted to. And the only way to, especially with, I don't want to say female cop, but, different diverse cops, that's what the gun is for. Enforce the law, protect yourself. You gotta use it. And so that's why people get mad. They use excessive force, maybe. And they go, I was in fear for my life. All right, he's going to lose, right? That's why you don't go looking for trouble. Yeah? So we'll skip over that. But then next one here is for Jersey City. I like Jersey City. I went to college there, Jersey State College. And to me, Jersey City is the most urban feeling city in New Jersey. It feels like a city. It feels downtown is like being in Brooklyn or something, right? You got brownstones and everything. And it feels like a city. A lot of places in New Jersey, to my opinion, feel like really big towns. Morristown, a little bit. Newark is getting kind of more cosmopolitan. Because Newark is the biggest city. Jersey City is the second largest city. Patterson is the third largest, and the fourth largest. All up here in North Jersey. Pick up to North Jersey. There is no Central Jersey, by the way. And but Jersey City, they got a budget deficit. They got a new mayor. And surprise, surprise, they had a $255 million budget deficit that he announced in his new budget. And he goes, how can he? And now this new mayor, Mayor Solomon, he was on the city council for at least one time prior, which is like 4 years before he ran for mayor and won recently. How you didn't know about this deficit when you were a council person and you got to do the budget every year, right? And now all of a sudden they got $255 million budget deficit. The first thing he did as mayor was beg the state to give them some money. And then he said, we got to also raise taxes by 15% to offset the $255 million deficit that popped up out of nowhere. That was just left by the other mayor, who's a bad mayor. Right? Blame it on the other guy. Now that Phillip is gone, Mayor Phillip was there like 12 years. Now that Phillip is gone, everything bad in Jersey City is because Phillip was there. So this is Phillip's thing. I mean, that's not how it is. Because listen, man, the political reality is, and I remember this clearly, and people will tell you, human memory is short, but people forget George W. Bush, who was the president before Obama, he messed up the entire world. Everything. The economy was bad. The world was war. He just lied to the public. He just messed the entire world up. He made it so bad that America considered voting for a dude like Obama, a person of color. Right? To me, he's African American, Black American, but I don't know that he identified as a Black person. This is what I told you. My definition of Black person is. Right? Descendants of Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, tortured, enslaved, and sold into slavery. And that does not fit Barack Obama's immigrant journey or immigrant Black experience or journey. His dad was from Africa. He had never been no slave, He met his mother out there in Hawaii, got the interracial on, right? Produced Barack. And then when they separated, she went off into Malaysia or some other South Asian, Pacific Islander place. That's where the P.I. comes from. That's where she went and took Barack with her. So he didn't get the mainland United States until he was like a teenager. So he grew up out there. And so he don't share that quote unquote Black experience. And it's really not in his being, right? As opposed to Michelle Obama, who's from Chicago. But so when he says, "Oh, I'm not here to help all people," it's like Tiger Woods going, "I'm Kabbalah Asian," Caucasian, Black, and Asian, Kabbalah Asian. What are you talking about? Your father seems like a Black dude, mom's Asian, right? But that's how America is, the racial stuff in America, right? And how do we get on? We got onto that because we're talking about. I was saying that when Barack Obama became president, the Republicans in Congress and the Senate who had totally helped W. Bush mess up the whole world, right? They were called neocons, neoconservative, new conservatives, right? Which is really just these MAGA guys and these Tea Party guys, like James Smith was saying. They were going and they switched gears 1 minute because it was a budget deficit crazy. He had messed up the entire everything in America. W. Bush did, along with their help. But they said the minute that Barack Obama got elected and got sworn in, that's Barack Obama's budget. Nah, that's not the conservatives' budget anymore. That's not our problem. We did not do this. This is Barack Obama's problem. We're going to consider this Barack Obama's problem. This is his budget. George Bush, even though they created it and we helped them create it, it's not on us anymore. It's on this guy, right? And that's how they behave. They like, you talk about flipping on a dime, flipping a switch, 180-degree pivot, right? Turn, and to the right. And so now it's Barack Obama's problem. And I personally believe a lot of the economic issues we have now, inflation, whatever, is because Barack Obama did not do what people at that time told him needed to be done. He passed the budget, and they were all telling him, economists, visionaries, Wall Street, everybody was saying, what you want to approve, we need to have at least double or maybe triple that to really fix the problem. But Obama was singing that Cory Booker and Tim Scott thing. There's no will for me to pass a budget that big. These guys just told you This is your problem now. And so if it's your problem, I would have took that as, oh, it's my problem. I'm going to do what I think is the right thing to solve it. Right? Because they didn't want to fight it out because, they knew that they posed some kind of crazy number that the conservative neocons who helped create the problem would have probably had some kind of fodder to fire back. But some battles you got to fight. Right? And to me, my view and my real beef with Obama is he left a lot. It's like gambling on poker. I'm not a gambler on poker. If you don't leave money on the table, you take it all. Right? And he had opportunity to really do some stuff. And he just played it safe because he wanted to get elected to a second time as opposed to doing the work. And I don't know if I get into that. But anyway, so here we have in Jersey City, you got this new mayor, Solomon, blaming everything on Philip, the way the neocons and Republicans blamed it on Barack Obama after W. Bush messed the world up. And so he's saying we got 250 miles, beg the state. The state of New Jersey said, okay, we'll give you $120 million. You got to find the other $105 million yourself. And Solomon, I'm not going to say he did not tell the truth or that he misled people, but he said, well, we got to raise taxes by 15%. And he made it seem, he didn't say it, but he made it seem like raising taxes 15% was the price that the state required of Jersey City and the taxpayers to help in exchange for that $120 million aid. And the state said, we didn't say that. We just gave you the money. Do what you got to do. And so then they tell Solomon, I thought you said we had to do the tax increase or we wasn't going to get the money. Yeah, I didn't say that. Really? You didn't say that. You just want a 15% tax increase. That's going to probably put people out of their homes, right? After you helped, just like the neocons helped George W. Bush mess the country and the world up at New County. You helped Philip mess the country and the world up, but now here you are telling us we got to do 15% because Philip was just so bad, right? Come on. And so this was on June 29th. So and it's from the HUD post on Instagram, which is that's a local newspaper. Jersey City will receive a $120 million financial assistance package from the state of New Jersey to help close the city's budget gap. Mayor James Solomon announced Monday, following action by state legislative committees on the general appropriations bill. When combined with the $55 million in savings the administration previously identified, the package reduces Jersey City's remaining 2026 deficit to roughly $80 million. The package includes $105 million in long-term low-interest debt and $15 million in transitional aid grants. Distribution will begin within 30 days of the passage of the state's 2026 budget. The deal followed months of advocacy by Solomon, Hudson County Executive, remember the Hudson County Executive, right? Executive Craig Guy, and State Senators Raj Mukherjee and Angela McKnight, with support from Governor Mikey Sherrill, Senate President Nicholas Sputari, and the Assembly Speaker Craig Copper, right? Right? So, yeah, so they got, so the state is stepping in to help him out and bail him out, but he still wants that 15% tax increase. So I say that because there's like three things. So that was the first one, right? The state said, we'll give you the money you need without acknowledging that you should never have helped create this in the first place, right? But then you go to the next one, right? And I when I smile, my sense of humor is not ha funny, but it's like ironic because to me, I'm very cynical. And then as a journalist, and I've seen how government works and how people do things, I can spot and peep the game that's being played as being run. And it's the same in every municipality. They all do it. And every government, it's in New York, it's in New Jersey, it's probably in every state, it's at the federal level, it's probably at the national level. Just the games people play to get what they want and do what they want to do. But the problem in Jersey City, that's why this next one is interesting, is that anybody who knows anything about Jersey City over the last 12 years, even and it's ongoing right now, even though Philip is gone, is there is buildings going up everywhere. And I don't mean just regular buildings, there's apartment buildings, but they got sky high, you got skyscrapers and towers. You go to Journal Square now, where there was nothing before, there's a big old, 40-foot tower, 40-floor tower or something there. And that's Tower 3. On the other side, there's 2 more towers. And there's more like that going. And there's more coming. And there's apartment buildings going up. These big old, huge complexes going up all around the city. And you're sitting there going, And me being cynical, when I see construction and war work and stuff going on, I see money because you can't have that. You got union labor. Somebody's getting paid to do all this construction, right? There's contracts. When you see construction happening, people are getting paid to do this. There's work going on. There's money changing hands every day. The bigger the project, the more the money. And people are getting paid. The only question is, are you getting a part of it? But you have all this development. And then also in New Jersey, and I mentioned with Mayor Smith, we are talking about all these, I call them New York City expats, right? It's like you have American expats in other countries living in whatever. You got all these people from New York City who are moving or immigrating to New Jersey. They're moving to New Jersey because the rents are too high over there. As Mayor Wayne Smith and his former business administrator, rest in peace, Wayne Bradley, predicted way back in is it 2000? Not the 90s, right? Early 2000, or 2001, 2002, 2003. Yeah, the rent is too high in New York, right? People can afford it. Or if you can afford it, you're still paying, you're getting half the space for more money. Whereas you come to New Jersey, you can buy a house or a condo, right? Get twice the space, twice whatever, at half the rate, half the fee. So why wouldn't you come over here? And if the housing exists, or if the market exists. And so Wayne Smith and Wayne Bradley saw that and were preparing for it and everything, but they got cut off at the knees because the state ran out of state money. And then also because they got defeated law on the Board of Ed. And then also the Great Recession hit in 2008 because of W. Bush messing up the world, right? And so they got derailed. But what they predicted was 100% accurate. All those people from New York, was that the 2000, was that the 9/11? He talked about all of the Wall Street firms moving across the river down to New Jersey, an exchange place in Jersey City. And it was a multi-billion dollar company. That's Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, the most profitable, the biggest, most well-known Wall Street company in the world, is in Jersey City, New Jersey, Goldman Sachs, right? And there's a couple more over there too. And for those who don't understand how finances in cities and municipalities work, it's called rateables. Rateables are just taxes you collect from businesses doing business in your city. And Goldman Sachs is multi-billion dollars. They got a couple of multi-billion dollar firms up there. They got all this money, got all this construction, all this investment. Developers come in with billions of dollars to build these projects. How much does it cost to put up those towers and those apartment buildings that are going up all over Jersey City, right? And then also they're going up all over North too, right? It's up in some up here in Orange. And I used to go to those meetings and they talked about the planning and stuff. Marty Mays from the city of Orange. What's up, Marty Mays? Right? And that's big money. And so you all this big money floating around. How can you have a $255 million deficit in New Jersey City? That's the question. He's sitting there going, how do y'all don't have any money? And the reason they don't have any money is because to attract the developers, it's just like NFL stadiums. Like you see the Chicago Bears getting ready to leave Chicago and go to like some nearby state because they got a better deal. Detroit Pistons were in Detroit, but they don't play in Detroit. They play in Flint, or they play in some town outside of Detroit City because they get a better deal. And the deal is you build it here, we'll give you tax credit, we'll give you tax abatement. In New Jersey, it's called tax abatements. And they say, listen, you build it over here and you give us some money up front, but we won't charge you taxes as a rateable in the city for like 20, 30 years. So that means 20, 30 years, you kind of living rent free, even though you're collecting money from your tenants who are paying thousands of dollars to live there every month for those 20, 30 years, right? And you can't collect any taxes. And you're going, what? And right? It's good for the developer. And they say it's good for the city because you attract the people. But if you can't collect any taxes off of there, then you got a problem. And you have to provide services for those new people. You need more cops, more fire, more buses, more sewer, more everything because you got more people. But we can't collect more money. What's going on? How are we going to pay for it? And Solomon's idea is let's raise the taxes 15% on the people who are already here who own homes. Now, you just have your home and you just getting by because the economy is tight. Now they want you to pay more because they gave a break to these billion-dollar dudes and these people who living in these apartments paying what you pay for your mortgage just every month. How is that fair? Right? And so people are salty. And so this next video here, this one on Instagram, which is related to this other one that I showed you before about the state bailing out these steps, because it's the ad for this new tower in Journal Square to watch. See how doesn't that look like a nice place to live if you can afford to live there? And most people in New Jersey City, can't afford to live there. So then the question becomes, who are you building this for? And is you building it for the New York expats, or you building it for these international people who come here and they need something to live? And then you look at the comments next to it. Right? It says from Ryan Bobillo on Instagram. Nah, thanks for the killing of affordable housing. All right. Beneath that, 3 nails, 1 Lord. Crappy material to use. Next one, Big Ant TV Media. The reasons why property taxes in Jersey City went up. Facts. And then the other beneath that, it says overpriced for the same boring floor plan as every single new building in Jersey City. Oh, but let's slap luxury on it and they fall for anything. That's true too, because listen, and it's not just Jersey City. You can go to Harrison, which is next door, north. Any of these places where they're building this new housing up in Orange too, over there by the train station. It all looks the same to me. It looks like college dormitory. You go to college universities, these big college universities, and look at the housing they have for the colleges and dormitories. That's what these new housing apartments complexes they're building. That's what it looks like. But it makes sense too, because the same people who built that college housing, they're building this other stuff too. So they making money on both ends. We house you when you're in college, and then when you get out of college, you need a place to live. Come on over here and pay us some more, right? But it all looks like college dorm stuff to me, right? The floor plan, the layout looks like college dorm. Like I said, it's not just Jersey City and Newark. It's the same. Which is what that guy said, overpriced for the same boring floor plan. It's the truth. It's like college dorm, right? And then a person said, "Did they take Section 8?" Listen, I'm pretty sure they probably would, but then they'd have to cut down the market rate housing, right? But that's the backdrop to this 15% tax increase that Mayor Solomon is talking about. So they're sitting there going, how you got something like this building with all these amenities, and it's right there above the PATH station too. You can't see from here. So that means you go downstairs outside your building, you get right on the PATH train, you'd be right in New York in 20 minutes. Less than that, maybe. 20 minutes. Talk about convenience, right? And then you're also in the middle of Journal Square, which is like not the main shopping area, but a big shopping area. All the stores, businesses, everything's right there. You just walk up to the building, go right there, right? And it goes straight up, and so you're paying premium dollar. You got to pay now, right? And so you mean to tell me you can build that and put it right there, but you can't collect taxes on it? That's why when I had Gunsmoke on here, Dwight Saunders, and he proposed the way to tax these buildings to get around these tax abatements and to get around it. And I'm gonna make a video about that too. But he talked about you can tax the individual renters. And I said, whoa, that's genius. It sounds so simple when Gunsmoke said it. And he talked about but he's in code enforcement. He knows what he's talking about. And so when you see Solomon and these guys talking about we got to raise taxes, no, you don't. You got to get creative. You got to get innovative. You got to go find a guy like Gunsmoke, Dwight Saunders, Gunsmoke, former City of East Orange code enforcement guy, and ask him, what can we do to solve this problem? Of course, he's going to charge you a consulting fee, but that's business. This is America. It's capitalist, right? That's why Mamdani and his stuff wasn't not the US, but it's not communism. They take your idea and pay you for it. But anyway, I digress. But then this other video too is about the Jersey City problem, because once again, you get all these New Yorkers coming to New Jersey, and they bring their New York sensibilities with them to Jersey. And so you're a New Yorker, and your whole point in coming to New Jersey was to get cheaper rent, cheaper this. But then you get here, and they're trying to charge you like you're in New York, but you're not in New York. You're sitting there going, what the hell is going on? And so this is a quote, it's going to quote from somebody called Prevailing Sentiment. And she's a woman. I feel like she's an ex-New Yorker. I'm not, don't quote me on that. But I've been looking at her posts because she's been following this budget stuff. And she's outraged and she's salty. But she's also channeling the feelings of a lot of Jersey City renters and taxpayers and property owners. They're going, what's going on? Right? And Prevailing Sentiment. And it's like debunking, and it said debunking the Solomon administration. And she says, the city doesn't need higher property taxes or service cuts. There are proven fiscal tools already available. As Gunsmoke said, yes, there is a way to solve this problem. Rescind pilot agreements. Pilot agreements are what the tax abatements are called. They're called pilots. That's an acronym too, P-I-L-O. It's like, what's it called? Pilot means payment in lieu of taxes, right? So the developer will come in and you say, oh, and you use the pilots to entice the developer because you want them to come in and build stuff to attract people to come live there and spend money and work and whatever. But you got to give them tax breaks and you got to give them incentive to come there and do it. Allegedly. This is what they say you got to do, right? Like I said, NFL owners, they say, well, you want me to build a stadium and keep the team here, but you, the state or the city, won't help us to help you. Right? I'm an owner. I got billions and billions. I make billions every year with my football team, but I need the city to build me this stadium so that I can come here with my team and make billions and billions and keep the prestige of the city. And I give y'all some too. And that's kind of what the pilot deal is like, right? Only not with NFL Stadium, right? Like I said, payment in lieu of taxes. So that one, and it says this name, that's why acronyms are cool. It is what the name says. We'll give you this money up front so that we don't have to pay taxes every year. Now, those taxes every year, collectively over time, is going to be more than whatever amount I pay you up front. But that upfront payment I give you, you can use that. That's liquid. You use it right then and there. And that's what they're saying Fulop was doing. He was taking these pilots, taking that money up front, using it to plug gaps, and then pushing it down the road for other time to come up. But now, under righteous Mayor Solomon, clean hand, I'm calling clean hand Solomon. Because he said, I voted against those budgets, but you didn't come out and protest them, though, did you? Right? You didn't do what this prevailing sentiment person was doing and what other people were doing. You didn't go and broadcast to the world. There's some bullshit going on here in this budget. You didn't do that, right? And so sometimes silence is right. There's commission, there's guilt by omission, but then there's silence. You don't say nothing about it, so you kind of approving it by going along with it, or if you don't draw people's attention to the wrong when it's happening. You feel me? But so she said her suggestion is rescind pilot agreement. New Jersey municipalities have legal precedent to unwind flawed deals. Hackensack recently moved to rescind multiple lame duck approvals. She's kind of right, but she's kind of wrong too, right? She's talking about, and then because Hackensack is not Jersey City, right? Hackensack is not as big. Jersey City is the second largest city in New Jersey, right? Everything is bigger in Jersey City. And the deals in Jersey City are bigger. And when she says lame ducks, that means I learned that from Hillside, from Hillside. Because Barbara Rowan, former mayor, Hillside Mayor Barbara Rowan. Big up, shout out to Barbara Rowan, former Hillside Mayor Barbara Rowan. They went to all the Hillside Citizens Action Committee, Bob Charlie, Joe Loeb, all those guys. They went through all the trouble of changing the form of government to oust the power structure. And they got it done. They changed the form of government, got rid of them. It was like mission accomplished. But they didn't sit there to read the fine print, which is to go to that last meeting. And that last meeting before that, the people they were getting ready to they kicked out of there, voted out of there, is gone. They passed all these laws and bills and stuff that the new incoming people were going to have to abide by. And I remember going to that meeting, and I'm looking around going, where's the HCAC? Where's all the revolutionaries? And talking about Barbara Rowan, and she was like, oh, we don't got to go there. There's nothing they can do. They're finished. They're done. And I said, that does not look like what I saw based on this agenda I got in my hand. And they passed all these deals. Lawyers, contracts, this, that you got to do it. And that's what she's talking about when she says Hackensack recently moved to rescind multiple lame duck approvals. A business deal that's got to do with high finance and stuff like that, like pilots, that's different from giving a contract to a lawyer for services. You know what I'm saying? Or stuff like that. So she's kind of right, but I like. And then it said order pilots plus enforce compliance. Hackensack can cover $5.4 million in unpaid pilot fees. Right? That means they didn't even get the money up front. Jersey City should complete its audit and enforce accountability. Fix municipal finance strategy. Use refinancing, bond restructuring, and tax anticipation notes to reduce debt pressure, not just roll it forward. See, she's trying to propose remedies for logical remedies for the stuff that's in Jersey City. But this is how you can tell she's new to Hudson County. Because for those who don't know, Hudson County, in a state like New Jersey that is known for sopranos and I don't want to say corruption, but political shenanigans and other kind of stuff, Hudson County is steeped, well known for that type of stuff, right? And so the deals that get cut in Hudson County that are backed by Goldman Sachs. And when I say Goldman Sachs, I'm talking politics and power, right? The intersection of money, politics, and power and influence. That's worldwide. That's international. That's National Democratic Party stuff. The two governors in New Jersey, Corzine and Murphy, they're Goldman Sachs guys. They made their money working for Goldman Sachs. I remember interviewing Corzine because he became a senator first, and then he didn't like being a senator, so he said, "I want to be governor," and they let him be governor because Goldman Sachs, he got money. He's rich. And Goldman Sachs is Goldman Sachs. He's in New Jersey, and they got money and influence politics. And when I worked for the World Rouse, he came in and we interviewed him. He became governor, and I said, "What do you prefer, being a governor or being a senator?" Because senator sounds more prestigious, but he was like, "Nah, there's no real power being a senator because you're just like one of 110 more, 102 more. There's 50 states, 2 senators per state. So what is that? 102? It's like you're just one of 102 as a senator." He said, "But as governor, you run that state, and so you actually got real power to really do stuff." And so he preferred to be a governor, right? And so he got to pick his spot. And he picked his spot to be governor. But he's Goldman Sachs dude. Murphy, Goldman Sachs dude. Right? Money talks. And so and Goldman Sachs is right there in Jersey City. You see what I'm saying? So even though that's why you talk about newcomers and naivete and whatever, and why I try to tell New Yorkers, New Jersey is a different beast on a different type of level. It's smaller, more compact, but there's things happening. And so she's trying to do common sense fiscal management proposals in her posting, but you're not dealing with common sense people. You're dealing with money, power, and influence, and people who want money, power, and influence, and like money, power, and influence, right? That's what I learned being a journalist. Yeah, because you figure I'd be a journalist and people don't, like I said, the whole pothole thing, the pothole, I don't have to step in it if I don't want to step in it. But what if you want to step in that pothole? Right? There's money in that pothole that you want to get. It's risky, but man, it's worth it to get it. I can get that pothole, man, I'll get it. And so that's what I learned. People who are doing bad things, they don't want to stop doing bad things, which is what I might consider a bad thing or illegal thing or unethical thing. They don't want to stop doing that, especially if it's beneficial to them. So you can point it out. That's a bad thing. You don't got to do that. Well, I kind of like doing it. Right? And so that's what you're up against. These deals that Philip allegedly made and that the council approved. Well, and she's talking about, and they always talk about forensic accounting or whatever. Dude, they put the budget out every year. Council members review that budget every year, pass the budget every year. The same as the state. There ain't no forensics, right? The list, everything is itemized in the budget. You just go through it and look at it with a fine-tooth comb. Look at what you're spending on as opposed to just stepping on it. And it's all laid there in black and white. There ain't no surprises. These deals they're talking about, there's none of that. She pointed out collecting on the pilots, which is the payment that they not in Hackensack. That's Hackensack, right? That's loan shark stuff. I want my money now. You give my money now. Like I said, and Philip allegedly was using those kind of things to plug his gaps and make his budgets run, and then rolling the ball down the street or rolling the ball or passing the ball along for next administration or whatever. That's standard operating procedure. from what I have seen in New Jersey politics since I've been doing it, right? That the only options are budget cuts and property tax increases. Budget cuts, yes. Property tax increases, you don't have to do that. You cut enough for the budget, then it'll pay for itself. You ain't got to do that. You got to cut. You got to take away jobs. All right. And then she says manage cities several ways. She's like trying. And I think it was interesting because I thought it was. I don't say naivete, but you're trying to give them ideas like they don't have ideas, like they don't know what they're doing. Right. That's like I remember when Trump was. I think this is hilarious. Not funny and hilarious, but just ironic. He did a debate with Hillary Clinton, and a black guy got up and said, "You know, when you say MAGA, you know that could threaten some people." And I'm sitting there going, "You think he doesn't know that already? You think that's not the reason why they do that? Why it even came about?" Right? You ask. It's not a dumb question, but you asking, "What do you think you're uncovering?" You're not revealing that he does not know what he's doing when he says that. They know exactly what they're doing. They picked it. But people think like that. So that to me is like with this. He's going, oh, like this $255 million was a mistake when it was not a mistake. That's what you really got to accept. It was not a mistake. It's not a chance. It's not bad at bookkeeping and accounting. This was going to happen. And it was okay to happen because they were getting their money. Right? Yeah, see? And then she's talking about, she's being very logical with it. But, the lesson here is logic is not corruption is very logical, but not in a logical kind of way, which is, I want some money. For my pocket. I don't care about whatever else. As long as I'm getting something from it. And so, but it's good. And that's it. It's prevailing sentiment. And she's in Instagram. And that's what I'm talking about. Now the last thing for the Jersey City for the purpose. Because they want to close it. But the council, the council members, once again, a representative democracy. I hesitate. I agree with what Joe Noble said that Malcolm X said about democracy, about hypocrisy. I don't believe we got to protect American democracy. When have we had a democracy with a constitution that said 3/5 clause? When have we had a democracy when you got poll taxes and selling people and disenfranchisement, people can't vote, and there's slavery? Come on, was there really a democracy? Did the slaves say, "Yes, boss, we votes to be slaves"? No, right? So come on, what are we talking about? See, but that goes against the narrative, and because it goes against the narrative of the MAGA people and whoever else, traditionally, it's inconvenient. Because listen, they don't really care. It's just inconvenient because they're going to do what they're going to do because it benefits them. But it's just inconvenient because then they have to expose why they're doing it, which is it ain't the right thing or the wrong thing. This is what we want to do because it benefits us. It makes us good, right? And then you got to expose it. But as a journalist, I believe there's value in that, right? Just right. We talk about 10 toes down. Go ahead, say what you want to be about. Go ahead and do it. But people want to cloak it in this other stuff. They don't want to come out and say, "Oh, this is what it is." But nah, that's what it is, right? Just admit it and let's move forward. Because then they place the onus back on the voters or the people or look at whoever they're trying to say because they're going. Once you realize what's happening, if you don't do anything to stop what's happening, which is like the probably having problems and happening now, then you're going along with it. There's a great one of my favorite cartoons. I used to have a hand on my wall from Calvin and Hobbes, which is a news piece, and he's talking about Calvin is a little kid. He got a little stuff thing, and he's talking about he's rolling downhill on his wagon, talking about, yeah, man, the thing about responsibility in the real world is, you don't want the reason why ignorance is bliss is because once you realize there's a problem, you got to do something about it. While they're hurtling down a hill, or they done made a bad decision to get in their wagon and go down a steep hill. And he's going, man, and it feels good to go along until you get to the bottom of the hill, coming out here at breakneck speed in a wagon with no brakes. And now you got to come to an abrupt stop that's going to hurt and be painful. And that's really what it is all about. That's why it's inconvenient. We know it's going to end up, that $255 million, they knew it was going to end up there at the end, but the ride was real nice up until the 250. The ride was nice until the reckoning, right? Enjoy the ride. You ain't going to like the reckoning. There's a lot of things like that, right? In life. But then we move on, right? Oh, and this one right here, leading into fiscal viability. I like this for a number of reasons. Because, like I said in my previous video, I was talking about what happens when a political party in America loses the way the Democrats lost in 2024 and 2025. Trump won because they got thrashed, if you ask me, right? Is that the losing side has got to go back and reevaluate why you lost. You got to go. We got to do some soul searching and figure out what have we been doing wrong. Why couldn't we connect with voters? We got to come back and get stronger and better and whatever, right? And so the Democratic Party in America is in the middle of doing that now, which is how you get the rise of democratic socialists like Mom Donnie in New York and these other people in New York. Because America is a capitalist society. And like I said, it's interesting that this socialism stuff is coming out. And they forget the history of the world, which is what's interesting for me, right? Because socialism, I had a co-teacher in New York City, Mr. G, good guy, great teacher, good guy. But he was telling one day, socialism has never really been enacted in its true, accurate form. So he's one of the New York City socialists. Native New Yorker, good guy, Boricua, right? Sensible too. And I've met some of those other socialists before. I met them because they came out to Larry Ham's P.O.P protests. And they would come over here to support Larry Ham and P.O.P and their protests against police brutality and against union exploitation and other type stuff, right? I've met them. I've been over there. I saw them when they did a rally outside of City Hall a couple of years ago. I think the black dude who just got kicked out. Was correct. They was out there, right? So there's a video on my other page from them, right? I believe. If not, I pulled up. So yeah, those socials have been around for a minute. And then also, to me, every problem now, everybody's complaining about Trump, is all tracing. I was giving Hillary Clinton props for noting about the vast right-wing conspiracy. Listen, I give her no props at all because this is all because she should have won in 2016. I was so surprised. I went to sleep, and when I woke up, they were like, she lost. I was like, what? Everybody expected her to win. She did too, but she should have won. The reason why she didn't win, turns out, is because she would not do what FDR did with Harry Truman, what American politics is all about. That's the real problem with American politics now. American politics and American society really is about compromise. The Missouri Compromise, the other kind of compromise, right? The 3/5 clause in the Constitution was a compromise. You had these 13 colonies. Some of them had slaves, some of them didn't have slaves. The slave colonies had more population because they had more people because they had slaves. Even though they was not citizens and even though they could not vote and had no power, they were working for free and being exploited. They were physically there. And so when it came time to decide, well, how are we going to split up power between the states evenly? The Southern states are going, well, we should do it by population. Because if you go by population and we got more people, we get more power. The North is going, hey, no, we can't do that. Even though you got more slaves, we can't count them as a full human being because then y'all would have more power, more clout, more influence in the government than we do. So they say, we'll give you compromise. We'll count every one slave as 3/5 of a person. So according to the United States of America, a black person descended from the black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, and enslaved, and then sold in slavery here in America and the New World. You're not really 100% human being. You're only 3/5 of a human being, not 3/4 of a human being, 3/5 of a human being. For census numbers for balance sake. So we can eke out the numbers. America's a numbers game. And now that all these other groups have realized that, that's why the Republicans want to get rid of this birthright citizenship. So the Blanco, I call white people Blanco, I don't say white people, I call them Blanco. They call us Negroes. When in reality, it all comes from the Spanish language, for the Spanish was in the slave trade. And negro is the Spanish word for black. Blanco is the Spanish word for white. So if they can call us negros, I can call them blancos, right? So blancos and negros, negros and blancos. So when you hear me say blancos, I'm talking about white people, right? In Spanish, because negro, which is the Americanized or the bastardized version of the Spanish language, should really be pronounced negro, which is for black, which is the color for black. So when they say Negroes, they just meant black people. And they've been calling us Negroes forever. Yes? So black people, that's what, once again, these other immigrants from other countries don't really get when we talk about black. And they go, I'm not black. So technically, You're not. But then again, you are. Even though you don't want to accept it, or you don't want to be it, but y'all go stay over there with that non-Negro stuff. But anyway, so right now, the Democratic Party. Oh, yes, because Hillary Clinton just wouldn't cut a deal with Bernie Sanders, right? Donald Trump was having huge rallies, thousands and thousands of these MAGA people showing up because people were dissatisfied. The Blancos, the majority of them Blancos, traditional conservative Republican Blancos, Christian nationalists, the Tea Party, Christian Coalition, all those guys, they all, because they, like Wayne Smith said, they're always here. They never leave. That vast right-wing conspiracy that Hillary Clinton talking about is always with us. And they got behind Trump, and he was having huge rallies. But what everybody wants to conveniently ignore and forget on the Democratic side, which is why they got the problems they have now, was Bernie was having just as big rallies as them. Bernie would have rallies and have thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there in his rallies because something was wrong with America that even Democrats knew it was something wrong. But you couldn't tell that to Obama, and you couldn't tell it to Hillary, or the Democratic National Committee, or the powers that be in the Democratic Party. They were just like, all is well, post-racial America, LGBTQ, it's all good. And America, and people were saying, no, it's not. And they just refused to listen. All Hillary had to do, even if she didn't want to campaign, to ensure her victory in 2016 was cut a deal with Bernie to make him her vice president. And all of his support, all those hundreds and thousands of people who were going to his rallies would have voted for Hillary. But because she did not do that, they either did not vote, they voted independent or something, or they just did not vote at all. And that's how Trump got in the first time, right? And also the other thing is, once those people that they ignored, those Bernie Democrats, like Larry Ham, who is not a radical, he's revolutionary, but that's pro-black, right? But he wants it for everybody, black people especially, but everybody in general. They ain't socialists, they ain't communists. The people I knew, right? And I told you I covered Hillside, which is where I went to high school and stuff. And the kid I went to high school with, it turned out that when I got older, went to college, came back, I realized that my friends and teammates' parents were like the council president and the mayor and these other people. And I didn't know none of that stuff, right? I was just oblivious. But yes, but these are regular people who voted for Clinton, Democrats, regular lifelong Democrats, right? Regular people, not radicals at all. And they wanted Bernie Sanders. But here's Hillary and the Democrats going, no. And so that's saying no to them. How are you going to turn your base? And that's why she lost. And even now, that base went away. And it still has not come back, because then once you turn them off, they got turned up. It's like, we don't want you in our party. Ready for you. We're going to go over here with these people. And y'all better come too. And they're going, no, we ain't going. Right? Because who would want to go to where the Democrats led us? To all this crazy stuff they want to do, right? That they have been pushing, right? For a small minority. That's the other thing about American society, or American democracy, whatever you want to call it. It's supposed to be majority rule informed by the minority interest or circumstances. But somewhere along the line, and that's how I know that these are people who are not Americans who are controlling the Democratic Party, with the funding and the money and stuff that's foreign or overseas or whatever. They got it twisted to where the small minority feels like they can control everybody. So even though Bernie's complain about oligarchs, he's right. And it's super rich. And their super rich agenda is for what they want, not what everybody wants. Yet these people who are supposed to represent everybody, it's just go following what these super rich people want, because they're giving them money, taking them to parties, doing all kinds of stuff, right? Giving them mansions. Look at the BLM chicks, right? Black Lives Matter chicks. You know, they got paid off and went to live in a mansion. And later for the struggle, right? It happened in New York City too, which is funny to me. Christine Quinn, city council president, right? In New York City, it's like the federal government. You only get 2 terms as mayor, 2 terms. Christine Quinn, LGBTQ, out and proud. City council president at the time. She cut a deal with Bloomberg to give him a 3rd term. And what did he allegedly give her in return for that? Because after that, cutting that deal, Christine Quinn and her lover, they got their money and they disappeared. Much like the Black Lives Matter too. right? But they gave him what he wanted. He was able to buy his way around that. But that's not the rule. That's not the law. That's not the exception. That was one. They did that for one person. A couple of people did something to benefit them. And if 15 Quinn and the council approved it, I'm pretty sure that city council, they all got something for it from Bloomberg, who's super rich, who was Republican and then became Democrat, right? Or who was, I guess, purple. But he's rich before purple, so he's really green. And so I say all that to say that right now, we are the consequences of that kind of thinking and reality dominating the Democratic Party. And here you have Trump, right? Because that vast right wing conspiracy, they know what they want to do. They laser focused and they ain't afraid to say it. Not anymore, right? And they got black fatigue. I'll get to that later, which is crazy. But anyway, but those Bernie guys, the more I don't say expressive, but they never went away and they're still there. And so now those Bernie guys who are still in the Democratic Party, they have become socialists. Right? And that's that Democratic socialist, that's them. Those are those Bernie Democrats, right? Like Mamdani and these other guys, DSA, that's them. It's a little more extreme than what Bernie was doing. And also what Hillary could have pulled them back in, integrate them back into the rest of the party, give them a little power, they got no grievances no more. But now they've been pushed to the cold, whatever, and Biden pushed them out too. They go, nah, we back. We socialists. We need to change from this capitalist stuff, right? And so they won the election in New York City. But so the Democratic Party is going through the reevaluation and examination that's got to come from any national party after that losses like they did in 2024, right? But the Democrats do not want to be called socialists because socialism is communism, right? In America, it's the truth. And you say, we're socialists, we're not communist. No, it's the same thing. Even Marx said collectivism, socialism, communism. All three are on the same part. It's like the autistic spectrum. Or autism is there's special education diagnosis is on a spectrum from severe to mild to whatever. On that communist or Marxist spectrum, collectivism first, socialism second, communism last. That's the end goal. So they say we DSA, we get socialists. We're not coming. No, you're communist, my dude, right? And so they popping out and they're winning, right? And it's funny. So then you have Democratic Party who got to win nationally, and they're sitting there going, "Wait a minute, that's not a winning strategy in America. America is an anti-communist country. We had a Cold War for 60 years with Russia, communist Russia, right? All of the atrocities that happened in Latin America, Central America, by America and CIA back in those authoritarian banana republic, whatever, that was anti-communist. As long as you were anti-communist, America was like, good to go. Do whatever you got to do, your people, just be anti-communist. The Shah of Iran, they put him over there, anti-communist. Korean War, the Vietnam War, before wars to stop communism, what we thought was going to be communism, domino effect. Now all of a sudden you got these cats at home going, we communists? No, that ain't going to fly. Especially with these MAGA cats, especially if you're trying to galvanize them to work them up and get them to turn out. Because that middle America, that Rust Belt, that Battle Belt, those MAGA dudes, those Christian, they ain't Christian, baby. I mean, they ain't communists. They will get out, they will come out to stop that crap, especially in their own backyard, right? And so the Democrat Party is trying to find itself. Who are you after that loss? And so you got Democrats who got to explain how this socialist communist stuff is popping up in the Democratic Party, right? And so this post is about that. But I would say this with these socialists. My problem with them is they act like they don't understand the history of socialism, or it's going to be different. Like I said with Mr. G, now good dude, and he's not stupid at all. But it's ideological and it's like a purist form. But in practice, socialism has not led to bad things. The only kind of socialism / communism that I've ever seen that was practical and worked the way it was intended was those Israeli kibbutzes back when Israel first formed. And you had the settlers, and there was like a siege mentality. The people in the kibbutz was like a settlement, and you had to live together, work together, share together, do communist, collectivist, socialist stuff to survive against your Arab, the Palestinians and others who did not want you there. So it was, but that's on a small scale, right? And the Israeli kibbutz, Kibbutz, right? That seemed like it works, but I don't know that you can run a country like a kibbutz, right? And historically speaking, you can't, right? Because the socialist name is even bad. Because listen, it's mentioned in Israel, and never again. The Nazi Party in Germany, their official name was the National Socialist Party. Socialist Party. Nazi is what people call them, but they are a National Socialist. And so National Socialist, socialism, that's Hitler and fascism. All these Democrats run around talking about fascism. Socialism is fascism, right? And then also, I talked about the Cold War between the U.S. and Russia. What was Russia back right now? Russia is a country. It's called Russia, but Russia used to be called the Soviet Union because it was like the United States. We had 50 states. The Soviet Union had countries that were Soviet. And what was the official name of this communist bloc? The Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Socialist, communist, right? So on one hand, you got Nazi fascist communist socialism. On the other hand, you got communism, socialism. So what are you talking about? That socialism is this other thing that is proven in life. We've all seen that it's not, and yet they're calling with democratic socialists. No, my dude, you're communist, right? And the Democrats, National Democrats, outside of these really blue states like New York City or whatever that they're just going to vote blue or New Jersey. But listen, I'm pretty sure that democratic socialist stuff ain't going to fly in Jersey either. As a matter of fact, right? And I tell you, Larry Ham he calls himself a Bernie Sanders progressive, right? He ran for the Senate as a Sanders progressive. He said he ran because he wanted to keep that progressive spirit in the mix of New Jersey politics, right? He didn't win for the Senate. Larry Ham didn't win. The slogan was "Go Ham." It's a good slogan. But when he recently, about I guess a year ago, he had an event at Essex County College because they were rallying and organizing to protest the stuff that Trump was doing, right? And it was part of one of their, I think, the MLK conference or something. And so at the end of all, and Larry talks that comrade stuff because most of that Black Power stuff from back in the day, it was influenced by communist and socialist thinking because that was the alternative to capitalism, which was oppressing people. Capitalism and imperialism was bad back in those revolutionary days with Mary Blocker and P.O.P. and and all that stuff, Black Panthers, right? And so the antithesis of that is the communist stuff. So they call comrade. And so they all, whenever they had the P.O.P. has meetings like that, they come out with a platform. Everybody who's involved in it, they all contribute something to the platform. And so then they go and they announce it, and they're like, Mr. Chairman, this is our position, and they record it and they put it all, and that becomes their platform for that thing. At that event at Essex County College, there was a group of socialists from New Jersey, from some town in Jersey. I'm not sure which town it was. I have to go back and look at my video because I recorded it. Either that or I turned it off and sitting there going, this is crazy talk. Little did I know, right? They wanted to add to the platform this socialist agenda. But also at this event that P.O.P. was hosting that had been co-hosted by these Black ministers from Black churches, Black people, Black leaders, Black churches, they whispered to Larry, no, we don't do that socialist stuff. We don't want to have that included in our platform. And what happened? Larry P.O.P. said, no, that's not going to be part of the platform. You can say it, but we ain't going to add to the platform. Because the Black ministers didn't want it, right? The Black community is not socialist at all. It's not communist at all. Even though we have been the worst victims of this capitalist thing, we ain't down for the alternative, baby, as a general collective. It's just, because if you're at the bottom of social capitalism, are you going to be at the top of socialism? That make everybody the same way? No, you're going to probably be the bottom of that too. And we ain't stupid, hopefully. Well, maybe we are. I don't know. We'll see if it comes to that, right? But that's why I'm really not, I don't know. There's a lot of money sitting on Jersey. So I don't know. I don't think that democratic system stuff is going to fly in Jersey at all. I think the Democratic Party establishment stamped that crap out. Unlike in New York City. And I also want to say this about New York City, because to me, this is my first time I've worked in the people town. I got to see them polling and voting. In New Jersey, we have a Democratic Party primary election, it's one day. That's it. You come and you vote. That's it. Whatever happens, whoever gets to work, that's the end of it. But in New York, they got a round robin thing. It was like something out of the Hunter chairman election arc, right? That's what I kept thinking. Because you got to get a certain number of, you got to win by a certain percentage and maybe a number of voters. And if you don't win by that percentage, we got to all go back again and vote again. But now, if I'm a busy New Yorker trying to earn a living, I really only have time to come and vote once. But now you're telling me I got to come back the next day. Then after that, it's not enough. I got to come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times to vote for the same thing over and over again. But I'm trying to live, work, commute, family, whatever. Who got time for that? The only people who have time for that kind of voting are rich people who don't have to work, poor people who ain't got no jobs, and students who are in school and either school is out or it's on break or lunch break or something like that. You're not getting a mix of everybody in the city. You're getting a few people. So the winner of that form of election is not going to be reflective of the overall, in my opinion, electorate or voter base, which is non-binding. So what happens is the most committed and dedicated and motivated voters are the ones who say that. And these socialist dudes are motivated. And so they came out for that guy, Mamdani, and he won. And then once you win a Democratic nomination in New York City, since there's no real Republican opposition, or legit Republican opposition, as in much of New Jersey too, it was a sure thing. It was a sure one. You win the primary, you win the election, which is what Mamdani did. And so now you have it. But you have New Yorkers, Democrats, because the rest of the country is going, what the hell are y'all doing? And they're going, Mamdani don't represent us. Oh, yes, he does. And so this video was about that. Also, the black woman who posted it, pretty cute, right? Pretty black woman. So watch this.
We have here because transplants are active and engaged and they're voting for the socialists. Most New Yorkers did not vote. So stop saying that we got what we voted for. Maybe you got to say we got what we didn't vote for. According to NBC exit polls, voters who were born in New York City voted for Cuomo over Mamdani, 49% to 38%. Among people who lived in the city for over a decade and who were not born there, it was closer. Mamdani led 55 to 40. But among new residents who have lived in New York City for less than 5 years, they voted for him at 85%. And here's the number that I want you to pay attention to. 39%. Only 39% of registered voters in New York City turned out for these elections. So 6 out of 10 eligible New York voters did not vote at all. Native New Yorkers are capitalist. New Yorkers want the interest rates to come down. They want the cost of living to come down, but they are not socialists. I'm struggling to understand this, like why New Yorkers are just conceding their city to these people who really haven't even invested in New York. They're not true New Yorkers. Mamdani's support came from very specific group. 78% of his voters are under the age of 30. 84% of his voters are women ages 18 to 29. Neighborhoods that powered his wins have been dubbed the Commie Corridor by analyst Michael Lang. Areas like Astoria, Williamsburg, Long Island City skew young, college-educated, and renter-heavy. He also won 82% of the LGBTQ voters. 5% of those self-identify as Democratic Socialist, actually expanded his coalition among Black and Hispanic voters. Won young Black voters at 84% and young Hispanic voters at 85%. These are all according to CNN exit polls. Saw someone say there were no Republicans to contest these people in the election. Yes, because Republicans have stopped investing in campaigning in deep blue areas where they know they're not going to win. These are the people that say, blue no matter who, we don't want to hear your ideas, we don't want to hear your thoughts. If you're a Republican, we don't want to hear it. And so now you have a lot of these socialist candidates who don't have anyone there to contest them. Some of these people are winning without even having to run a real campaign because they're the only ones on the ballot. Find that with the depressed turnout, not having anyone to contest these people, this is what you're getting. Native New Yorkers want different outcomes. The data is clear on what they're going to have to do to change this. You can't sit out of an election and be frustrated on who decided your fate. That's not a conspiracy, it's arithmetic. The numbers don't lie. So I go into greater detail on this topic over on my Substack. The link in my bio to join my community.
I want to add, Cuteness does not lie either, but then it does, because Belle Biv DeVoe warned us, never trust a big button to smile, right? But still, I can't get over because yeah, she really is cute. But she's speaking facts, and that's why the voter, like I said, that's why the election turned out the way it did. This is the way the system goes. Because I mean, who's got time in New York City to come back and vote for the same thing 4, 5, 6 times, which is what happened, right? And so yeah, so to me, watching that New York City primary election, Democratic Party primary election, that's another reason for New Yorkers to stay in New York. Don't bring that sensibility, don't bring that method, don't bring that mode, don't bring that over here, Jersey. We don't really want that or need that. Y'all keep that to yourself. I like the one-off, right? David Lyons, former Norfolk councilman in Irvington, said, "You have to vote. You win. You win. If I only win by 1 vote or 2 votes, I won. We didn't get 95% of the vote voters out to this thing, so we have to go back until we get this message." But it was really some Hunter x Hunter stuff from the anime. Anybody who watched the Hunter x Hunter anime, which is the greatest anime of all. But what is it called? Chairman election art. That's what it was. They had to vote 3, 4, and then they locked the door. You can't leave. You're gonna stay here and vote until it's time to go. But even in New York, that's probably what they should have done. Had that one day and say, "No, we're gonna stay here until we get it done." But that's not what they did. They said, "Whoa, come here, come back tomorrow, come back tomorrow." Who's got time for that? So they got mom down, so we'll see how it goes. But yes, but we're trying to see what this new Democratic Party is going to be and who they are, and they got to find themselves. Because I mean, to me, they have gone off the rails personally. And they've let super small minority interest groups. When I say minority, I don't mean racial. I mean, special interest groups, LGBTQ, AAPI, whoever. They let them hijack the national agenda, international too. And so that's not how it's supposed to work. It's the majority rule. And then voted in, they try to make you vote for Kamala Harris, and people go, "I don't like Kamala. You better vote for her anyway." I just saw a thing from South Carolina, Sam Clyburn talking about black people betrayed Kamala Harris. Why? The Democratic Party betrayed us. Why we got to vote for her? They didn't give us a chance to pick our own person. She wasn't for us. She's down with Obama. I'm not here to represent black Americans. I'm here to represent all. Why do you feel the need to say that? Who asked you that? Right? Who asked you that? Right? Trump don't got to say I'm here for the Blanco. I'm here for the white Americans. It's understood. Right? That's why, another reason Barack Obama told me, why did you feel the need to say that? Why did you feel the need to do that? And then he dissed this black pastor, right? Because they told him to. You got to separate yourself from this black pastor who's only done everything he's ever done wrong is be pro-black. You got to show everybody you're not pro-black. Really? And sure enough, he ain't pro-black, dude. But I digress, and we'll move on to the other thing. But the Democrats got to figure out who they are. But the midterms are coming up, and listen, what I like too, what she said, the guy who coined the phrase "commie corridor," that's pure PR gold, baby. Commie corridor. That's funny. All right, it's the next thing. What was the next thing? Yeah, it's the progressive Democrats, right? More on they got to explain. The Democrats got to explain themselves, right? Because America is an anti-communist country. We've been spending maybe 100 years, 100+ years going, we hate communists. Now all of a sudden you got communists running stuff seemingly on the rise. How is that going to turn? Right? In the Guardian, progressive Democrat wins lead to harsh criticism from other Democrats. Subheading: the party's old guard has abandoned their blue no matter what banner and started to talk about confronting their more socialist wing. Yeah. See, because that's what it is. Membership has privileges, but they've been demanding conformity. Like I said, talking about it, I can cancel you. How are you going to cancel me? Right? And also, if you're elected official and you representing your constituents, the people who elected you to go represent them, the only people who can cancel you are the people who elected you. So if you get up here and you are representing the interests of anybody except the people who voted for you to go represent them, then you've been messing up. And that it seems as if that's what the Democrats, especially the black Democrats, have been doing for a minute now. And it ain't cool. It ain't cool. Now we have, you turn what was a reliable, loyal voting base into people looking at you sideways going, we trying to play a game. You trying to finesse me. You trying to gaslight us. Right? And how is that good? Right? But anyway, this story is from The Guardian. The Guardian is a nut. Did I mention The Guardian is like the New York Times over in the UK and Great Britain? It's just a bigger paper. It's like the paper look at this one of the, internationally recognized journalistic standard people. Right? They're supposed to be like, the BBC or whatever. And it says Guardian US. And a quote, they should not be the face of our party. And that's what it's becoming, because there are people who don't like Trump, don't like MAGA, but they don't like communism even more. And if you tell them a communist is coming, they'll go F them commies. Right? Even though they may personally hate Trump. But let's keep it real. Charlie Kirk was killed by a MAGA dude who called him a fascist. And the fascist, you think that them Utah, that's crazy, Utah people. On board with that, but this guy was going, no, right? So, but I guarantee he shoot a communist first, though. But anyway, it says, after a string of primary victories by socialist Democrats, the loudest response from much of the party's old guard was not reconciliation, but escalation. Quote, they should not be the face of our party. End quote. A group of centrist Democrats recently declared. I think that that's a misstatement, because to me, Bill Clinton was the last centrist Democrat. Centrist means center, middle. It could also be called the Ronald Reagan Democrat, right? Because even though Barack Obama was somewhere to the left of Ronald, he tried to be a centrist, but he wasn't, right? Biden definitely was not centrist. And centrist means center. Purple really means blue and red. Purple, we need the center. We Americans, we're white and blue, but in terms of that, we just the central, moderate. We do rational, reasonable stuff. I would say centrist means reasonable, and there ain't too many reasonable people on any party right now, right? For whatever reason, they all left after Hillary and the Democrats turned their back on various people. I want to rear it again. People I knew growing up, and parents have been involved in politics, Democratic Party politics, solid Democrats, blue and blue. I'm gonna say nice Blanco people, right? Not black, white people, right? Reasonable white people, good-hearted, true, not evil, not whatever. And they was Bernie people, and they wasn't socialist or radical, and yet they turned their backs on them. And if you multiply them times millions or more across this country, that's why Hillary lost that race. Why would you do that? Because you're trying to push your ideological and sociological agenda on people who are saying that's not my most pressing concern. I don't care about trans girls, trans people competing against girls. I care about my taxes rising. But they're going, no, you should care about the trans. Really? Are they paying my bills? Nope. But anyway, the data, however, offers a more complicated picture of where the Democratic base actually stands. A Fox News poll in March showed that 49% of all registered voters, including 72% of Democrats and 60% of independents, describe capitalism as working, quote, not very, or quote, not at all well. See, and first off, I would say beware of all polls, right? Because even when we had the Great Recession, all these bond rating companies kept giving all that stuff, A, AA, AAA, all these crappy stocks that sank the economy. They would say it was quality stuff. So to me, you pay a polling firm enough, they get the results you want. They keep asking the question in different ways till they get the response they want. So I don't believe the polling numbers mostly personally. And then this is by Fox News. Fox News is Rupert Murdoch, right? That's conservative Republican MAGA. So whatever they're asking, one, the people that are asking are not going to be progressive. And then two, the question is going to be framed a certain way. So whatever results you're getting, I wouldn't be, that to me is not reliable data. But anyway, And it says, quote, what DSA represents is a real contrast to Democrats who have run the last couple of elections on fear, DSA's national co-chair, Megan Romer said. You can't run on that. You have to offer an alternative. That is accurate because their fear they run on is, ooh, the Donald is coming, Trump is coming, and fascist, king of America, reign, blah, blah, blah. You know, you better vote for this or else, right? You know, the irony is back when Puffy / Diddy was in politics, and they recruited him in New York City to galvanize the young hip hop voters. His slogan was "Vote or die." Vote or die. It's so urgent. Vote or die. Right? And so she's kind of talking about that, but not specifically that, because that they say, "Oh, Trump is coming. Trump is the most evil thing in the universe." And no, not that he's not, but it's that vast right-wing conspiracy that he represents. So he's just the figurehead of the front man. It's what's behind him or who's with him that you got to worry about, right? And that's what all presidents are. They're the front man, right? And so you focusing on this dude over here, but over here, they're making these moves, getting rid of the Voting Rights Act, getting rid of affirmative action, getting rid of this, getting rid of that, and this is this, right? Birthright, all this stuff. Yeah, you're focused on that dude. And that's what they're talking about. But then also, they're still salty about Hillary and them turning them out in 2016 or closing them out or saying, we don't want y'all. Why? My ideas is no good? And they're going, no, your ideas is not any good. Really? And then the economy goes bad. That's only work. You can only do that when everything's going great. But they kept acting like everything was going great during the Obama administration and then after it. And when millions of people are sitting there telling you in your face, it's not as great as you said it was, you should probably listen. But that's not what he did. And this is where we are now. Right? And this next one that I get is about Gen Z. This thing is interesting to me because I'm a teacher, right? And I get to work with some of the young kids. And these kids, they're funny, man, because they're super smart and they got more technologically savvy, and they have access to more actual information than any other generation probably that we know of in history, discounting, the ancient Egyptians and crazy type stuff, right? So they got all this stuff at their fingertips, and yet they do things and say things and behave, and you go, huh? It's like they know something that we do not know. And so this was posting about Gen Z breaking traditions that every generation before them followed. But these Gen Z dudes are the ones who are also voting for these Democratic socialist stuff. But they want an alternative. They're sitting there going, it's capitalist stuff. What the hell, man? I can't afford a good job. I can't get this. Something must be wrong. That must not work. Let's try something different. And so they'll try this Democratic socialist stuff. But the problem is, as smart as they are, they need to look up the meaning of socialism. Like I just said, socialism to me is Nazis and fascism, and socialism to me is communists and Russians, right? The USSR, Cold War, McCarthyism, right? But they don't know none of that history, right? So it's interesting. You have everything here in the palm of your hand, but you don't want to look at the palm of your hand, right? I call it like, lead a host of water, can't make them drink. These kids are dying of thirst, but don't want to drink stuff, or they want to drink something besides water. It could be knowledge and information and wisdom and use it properly. But then again, they're finding ways to make it work. They're coming up with new innovations and stuff. So it's just dynamic. And to me, it's just a reflection of what's going on with the Democratic Party with these young kids, right? Because she mentioned the young voters who voted for Mom down in New York. Yeah, that's these Gen Z kids, right? These young cats, right? And it's YNs. And yeah, because they want to try different stuff. But oldies like me, we tried that and look what it turned out. Right? And it almost always leads to, communist China, the people, all the Pol Pot, all these deaths, and these are death and destruction and abuse of power and oppression and everything. That's what socialism has led to. The track record, that's the track record of socialism. That's what it has led to. And it's led to that. So now you're going to say it's going to come along and this is going to be a different outcome. Okay. But as Mayor Barbara Rowan once said to me, and I still remember her, she said it, but it's true. She said the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results or outcomes. So socialism has been producing death and destruction and misery over and over and over again. Now you want to go back and try some more socialism. That kind of fits in that definition of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, we'll try it this way this time. Really? Right? Okay. But so this one just says every generation grows up differently, but Gen Z is rewriting some of the biggest social norms that previous generations accepted without question. From drinking less alcohol and leaving toxic jobs to building careers online and vibrant experiences over possessions, their priorities reflect a rapidly changing world. Success is no longer defined by simply owning more or staying in one career forever. Many of these trends are backed by research. Surveys show Gen Z drinks less alcohol than millennials did at the same age, report some of the highest levels of loneliness, despite being the most digitally connected generation, and increasingly values flexibility, purpose, and work-life balance over traditional career paths. Economic pressures such as rising house costs have also made renting more common than buying for many young adults. Whether you agree with these changes or not, Gen Z is challenging traditions that shape previous generations and redefining what adulthood success and happiness look like in the modern world. I can agree with that because, like I said, we really are. Once again, shout out to Barbara Rowan from the mayor of Hillside, who said that there's a Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times." And yeah, we do live in interesting times. We live in fast-changing, fast-moving, interesting times. Things are happening real quick, and the changes are happening really, really fast. And these Gen Z kids are in the process, in the middle of it. And but then again, Gen X and every young generation when they're young thinks that it's different. But you end up in the same path while the kids become the parents because human life, comes down to certain things, right? And at the end of the day, after you get past all the other things and all the other stuff, there's basic stuff, food, shelter, clothing, reproduction, food, shelter, clothing, reproduction. That's what every generation has to come back to. Gen Z will too. And procreation. And yeah, so we'll see. But they are definitely different. And like I said, it makes you wonder, do they know something that we don't know? And it's they're pretty fun. Smart as hell, though. All of them. Super duper smart. Super duper smart. Yeah. And this year, this was put out by Mayor Barack. It's about the 250th anniversary of the United States as a country. Yeah, this year we celebrated on the 4th of July, 250 years of the United States since 1776. That's when the United States became the United States in 1776. But even then, I said that's funny to me because that's only 250 years. But once again, I, as a Black American, descendant of Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, tortured, enslaved, and sold into slavery here in America and elsewhere in the world. Slavery was around longer than 1776, right? 1492, Columbus got here, right? Allegedly. Columbus got here, 1492. That's at least 200 years before 1776, right? And so the first colony down here in Virginia before that, the Pilgrims before that. So 1776 is after the Revolutionary War, after America broke away from Britain, British Empire, and became its own country. 13 colonies broke away and became America. That's only 250 years for that. And in that 250-year time, there was still slavery up until 1860, right? 1861, because the Civil War lasted 4 years. So from 1776 to 1861, which is 100 years, right? It was still slavery, right? In the South. It may not have been in all colonies, but it was in the South, right? So come on. And so once again, it's like a Shakespeare poem, America. You know, my love's fair beauty. Yeah, I love this country, right? America's the greatest country in the world. However, it's got some flaws and blemishes, baby. You know, it ain't Heidi Klum every morning, or whatever your favorite beautiful woman is, right? It's got blemishes, it's got spots. You know, still wouldn't have nobody else, but still, you got to look at it for who they are and love them for who they are and what they are and how they are. And that's why this MAGA stuff is double-edged sword, because what made America great is like that dude tried to point out during the Trump thing, but like they don't already know with some heinous stuff. They know they're not giving nothing back. So just don't remind us. Let's not talk about it. Let's change the laws. Right? But nah, so everybody knows it. But I thought that once again, to me, Ras Baraka, on many levels, is what he should be, in my opinion. Coming from the lineage and the background that he has come from and doing what he's doing. To me, he's actually about what he says he's about. Right? And so he said, Mayor Ras J. July 4th, 2006, Mayor Ras J. Baraka's statement on the 250th anniversary of America's independence. And it says, as Newark joins America in celebrating our nation's 250th birthday, I believe the Declaration of Independence deserves a slow, contemplative read today. In light of discouraging decisions coming from our nation's capital, talking about SCOTUS and the Voting Rights Act and other stuff and ICE and all kinds of things that's going on right now. We're in the middle of it, right? It reads almost like scripture, affirming the inherent, inalienable rights of every human being while documenting the abuses that make independence necessary, right? Yet, against the backdrop of today's fascist movements, that's why I usually talk about Trump and them who are Republicans as fascists. Like I said, socialism and fascism go hand in hand to me. It also serves as a mirror, reminding us that America's yearning for freedom has too often coexisted with a willingness to deny that freedom to others. Facts. Like I said, you talk about freedom, but there was 100 more years of slavery after 1776, right? And the ultimate hypocrisy that the French, who helped America win independence from Britain, they talk about the French Revolution, being such a great thing, but they didn't give up slavery in Haiti. That's why Haitians speak French, right? Or they gave it up briefly, then picked it back up. So I mean, hypocrisy goes around. And then it says the Declaration's 56 signers were all white men. Some were immigrants, and most were first or second generation colonists. One of them, Robert Treat Paine, is the great grandson of Newark founder Robert Treat. That's why there's a hotel in downtown Newark called the Robert Treat Hotel. Robert Treat's family came to America seeking religious freedom, only to discover that even among fellow colonists, freedom had limits. So he left Connecticut and founded New Ark along the Passaic River on land purchased from the Lenni Lenape people, right? Land purchased from the Lenni Lenape people. You think those Lenni Lenape Native Americans got value for the land they gave to Robert Treat? Just like Manhattan, they purchased. It turns out intolerance was a silent stowaway on ships sailing for freedom. It's a nice speech, Lucas. That same longing for liberty eventually brought descendants of enslaved Africans to Newark, as well as impoverished and oppressed immigrants from every corner of the world. Through struggle and perseverance, it built the city we celebrate today, a city strengthened by its diversity, united by common purpose, and alive this summer with the excitement of hosting World Cup celebrations. The irony of that is Argentina made it to the World Cup final. And Argentina, where the Nazis, who were the National Socialists from Germany who did the Holocaust, where they fled to after they lost World War II, they went to Argentina. Right? Played against Spain, who sent Columbus over here to start the whole colonization. And, we today call it genocide of the Native Americans, including Taínos and others, right? That started the whole process of colonization of the new world that brought slavery and everything. Right? Come on, right? Our history reminds us that democracy is not sustained by celebrating freedom alone. It survives only when we are willing to extend that freedom to one another. See, that's very nice, right? And I always think about, no, that's not true. I don't think about that. But yeah, this is very nice, but it's kind of, but it's to me, it's like the right tone in that speech because it's like Shakespeare said, I don't have to idealize you and say you're the most beautiful, the eyes are like pearls and this to love you, to respect you, and to value and appreciate you. You gotta look at them for what they are. Because when you look at them for who they are, you can understand and you can relate and you can have a good relationship. But if you're sitting there lying to yourself, right, it's unhealthy, right? You got a relationship with a woman you met or a dude you met, right? It's like putting on weight and getting weight is bad relationship, right? 98 pounds when you met her, and now she's 198 pounds. You still love her. The same thing for dude, right? And in the end, thing goes, nah, it changes. It goes both ways. Dude, he was, 170 pounds, fit, trim, lean, long hair, or whatever, right? And then next you know, he's not no more. And then you got problems in the relationship. So as America, don't promote it as this what it's not. And look at it for what it is, and then appreciate what it is, and appreciate the more work that we need to be done. Because once again, there are people call on a 250th anniversary this year. They call it the American experiment. Historians talk about the American experiment. That what we're doing over here in America, the founding fathers did, the Constitution, all this is new, it's different, right? You try to take all the best things from all this other Western stuff and put it together and make something new, different, and better here in the new world, right? And so it's ongoing, and it's growth spurts, and so you go into growing pains, and so you're having painful growing spurts that we have not there. It's all in English, and I'm English, I'm an English major, and I like English. And the term is called in medias res, that's Latin, which means in the middle of things, which means you're in the story. And when you story, you don't have the beginning, it's not the beginning, middle, and end. In medias res is the middle. Or you start, the story starts, but it doesn't start like once upon a time, it starts in the middle of things, right in the action. The right now here, 2026, 250 years after 1776, we're in medias res in this great American experiment. We're in the middle of the experiment. That's why this DSA, the socialist stuff, coming up in a allegedly democratic country, allegedly, capitalist, communist stuff, in a capitalist thing, society. It's the experiment, right? The experiment is ongoing. Let's see what works. Let's see what does not work. Once again, the track record for socialism, it ain't good. But then again, as scientists will tell you, and individuals will tell you, you can fail 250 times, but that 251st time, you might actually succeed. So that doesn't mean stop experimenting, right? So that's my existential take on this American 250 years. And then there's one last thing. On this last thing to me, I put this in here. It's not really a video. I'm gonna put it anyway because it shows to me about South Africa, right? And about how you got to look at stuff a little bit. Because I really think that if you're not realistic about the situation and who you are and where you are and what's going on, you can get stuff like this, right? Because we was all told Nelson Mandela, freedom, Invictus, Rainbow Coalition, it's such a great thing, it's all good, it's this. And then here you come 20, 30 years later, and the life of the average Black South African has not changed. Afrikaners still live in their exclusive communities with all the money, wealth, power, and influence in their communities. And Black people, the difference between them and the difference between Black Americans who were kidnapped, we were taken away from their lands and brought someplace else. In South Africa, that's their land. Other people came from someplace else to their land and took from them in their land and imposed themselves on them in their land, made them. They're not even 3/5 of citizens. They're not even 3/5 in South Africa. They're less than that in their own land, right? I was just looking at things saying that Gandhi, who Martin Luther King idolized, was a racist, right? He called South Africans cappers, like the Afrikaners. Thought that the Indians that the British brought to South Africa, Black lands, when the British were in control, they did in Jamaica and other places, were better than the black natives. The people who were there. I don't lump me in with them. No, talk about in America now. We keep talking about Dominicans and other people going no black, no black. Gandhi was going no black. It's crazy, right? But it shows how history repeats itself, which is why you got to remember it and why you got to keep it in perspective. Right? Oppressed people do oppressed things, and it becomes a sliding scale when being a Blanco is the top and everything else. Once again, extremes, positive, negative, light and dark. When light is what's up and dark is what's bad, if you're dark, you're down the bottom and bad. Right? And of course, you are the light, the better it is. And so in a human spectrum, in terms of race and ethnicities, it goes the same way too. Right? So unless you're Irish, right? Because Irish looks like a white, looks like Blancos to most people, but to WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, British, they go Irish, right? How did the dude say it in the movie, in the racist boxing coach in Great White Hype? How he said to the Irish American guy, he said, "You're almost white." Right? Because there used to be signs in America saying no Irish and dogs allowed, no Irish dogs or black people around. Like in China, there was no, you had places that controlled by different groups that controlled China. No Chinese or dogs allowed, right? So it's just power dynamic. And but that's like that in South Africa right now. All that Mandela talk, and to me, much like I believe Obama dropped the ball, didn't really do. I feel like Mandela was a lot of hype to support the status quo, and the status quo has not changed, and people are starting to realize that hype is not beneficial. But the reaction over there is crazy because the natives who should be, or pointing their animus towards the oppressor, which is the Afrikaners who got everything, they have instead seemingly turned their ire, anger, and whatever against other black Africans. And America is different. Once again, that's why it's totally different. We talk about self-hatred, but this is some real self-hatred type stuff among black Africans in South Africa because they're not mad about the Afrikaners and the Dutch and the Indians, whoever else that the British were over there being above them and having all the power and opportunity and access and whatever. They're mad at other black Africans who came to South Africa hoping to get a better life. The way that other immigrants come to America hoping to get a better life. But we as black Americans have never treated them like that. Never said, get the fuck out of here. Excuse my language. But the South Africans are doing that to these other black Africans. That's the other thing about being a black American. We welcome in everybody. And then they come over here and they show us their ass. They're saying, hey, for you black people, you're not white. We're with the white people. No black. Right? Yet in South Africa is going, nah, go back home, black people. But the others haven't going, well, wait a minute. They're the ones questioning you. So what? You're not from this country. Get out. Right? So and this post here by Kevin Black, commenting on Instagram, is about that. He's a comedian. He's pretty funny. And to me, he's like the anti-Trevor Noah. That's what made me mad about Trevor Noah. I don't like Trevor Noah. I'm saying that. Say it. I got nothing personal against him. But dude, when they would put whoever put him in, this is how you should. What's wrong with the Democratic Party too? The big money in Hollywood and the Democratic. Because who decided that Trevor Noah should succeed? What's his name from the Daily Show? Who decided that this was the guy to put on it? Because he was not the guy to put on it. How you got a guy from South African, look like a light-skinned black American, but he's really South African, and he on there criticizing America and every, he was criticizing Trump and them, like he was told to do, like Jasmine Crockett and them was directed to do by the powers that be. But who are you to criticize this country when your country is trash? Not trash, but they got issues, as seen here in this video, right? Go back and make your country better, right? As an American, this is what I say, right? So to other people trying to tell us how to think and feel and control, no. You go and get your house in order first before you tell me how to do our house. And this comedian, it's a satire, but it's, once again, satire, much like stereotypes and stuff, is based, the best satire is based off of reality and gives a hint into what's going on. And this is satire about what's happening in South Africa right now. And it ain't cool. From me, as a black American, it ain't cool. It ain't cool. But it also, once again, reaffirms to me what KRS-One said about Black Americans being unique and that we are the only group that are really true products and coming of age in this American experiment, this American system, this American thing, right? And that to me, that's why I'm not worried personally about stuff. But I feel like Dr. King said it the best. He said, return to objectives, but he also said we are the people who get to the promised land. So the roadmap is there. If people wonder what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, yo, the roadmap is there. Dr. King said, listen, you're in a race. You start off behind. You got to run harder. It ain't fair. It ain't right, but it is what it is. And once you realize you got to run harder, then you got to run harder and put in the work. And like Black Americans, we got to run harder. You feel me? Good thing we got energy drinks now, right? But here, check this out.
From Bahamas. What country are you from? Cameroon. Did you not born? Did you work here? Not. Don't get yet. You say every foreigner flee. I got like see you give me the khaki. You look at your country. You are looking for foreigners that here that are the people in South Africa. You must be a foreigner. You must be a foreigner. You dress like you're from Nigeria. Are you Nigerian? You are a criminal. What are you still doing? What legally saying come? What are you still doing here? Where's your brother? Do we have skin color? Skin color? What are you doing here? I was asking how you see IGC foreigners. Are you still the white person to IGC? Are you she is not white? You are black. That's the difference. She's a foreigner. That's the difference. You are black. She is white. I've spent most of my life. I was born here in South Africa. Then your parents are from where? Your blood smells green. And as you smell Nigerian blood, you are a criminal. You bring drugs. You bring nothing but drugs. Go back to your country. It just doesn't make sense. I was born here. How can you someone that has spent just 1 year in South Africa? These are the same people that kept your own land, your country, and 70% of the country. As a matter of fact, they run major economic sector of the country. You don't bother chasing them out and you're chasing all the blacks. They are the blacks. Want to tell us what we do? Don't tell us what we do. We want to tell us what we know. Now let me show him what makes sense. Yes. South Africa, please, we are sorry for making noise. We are sorry we are shouting around. We just want to sanitize. We want to sanitize the entire South Africa. Yes.
I'm a foreigner. I've been in this country for 1 year. And I see you've been chasing your fellow black people.
Our neighbors are from Russia, from South, from Spain, from Nigeria. These people are criminals. Yes. Permit us to worship the things that you work on. We are loyal to our Creator. We are under your command. Melanin does not matter. Thank you for being here. You have any other work for us? We can work and we can't work.
From primitive, safari, undiluted, prescribed, brainless beings.
Wow.
Brainless, my second
Really?
that is hilarious, right? And once again, the best satire has elements of reality in it. And listen, that is what's going on down there in South Africa. The South Africans are saying all the foreigners get out, but the only foreigners they want to get out are other Black Africans from different African countries. But all those African countries are not really African countries. They were created by the Europeans. They just drew lines on the map. This is this country, this is, and they're living with them now. So they got a lot of things that they got to get together in Africa, and they got issues. But this is hilarious. And once again, it's Kevin Black. And it's Calvin. He could be related. I'm Chris Black, but I gotta see. Maybe he's related to Kevin Black. I don't know. I knew a Kevin Long, but he's Irish. All right. And so yeah, so this was long, right? But and I think it was gonna be longer. It started off long, but it was longer. But I was trying to really keep it tight yesterday to match up with what I did with Wayne Smith, but I ended up going more in depth and longer with this other one because I wanted to get to those things. But I don't know. I was thinking about because Wayne Smith was interview was number 12, right? The 12th one. Maybe this will be number 13, right? This is an unlucky number. But I did it on the 25th, which is my favorite number. So I don't know. But I still have not done episode 5 yet. I'm gonna break episode 5 into 5 episodes, 5 and 25, 5 and 5, right? Because that would be special. But there's also some things I want to get to, right? So you see episode 5, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.5. All right, that's my 5th episode. But this one won't maybe be episode 13. But then again, I'm gonna chop it up and make it in there because it's worth doing. But yeah, see, and this is all stuff that I want to discuss with Will Smith. But I got it out there. I want to get it out there. I want to put it out there. I think it's important stuff, especially what's going on now. Like I said, in terms of these midterm elections coming up, and the Democrats got to find themselves. I am a registered Democrat. That's why I feel like I can, even if I wasn't, I still could have. Right? But yo, and I'm Black, and once again, I feel like I said, like I told Reggie Miller, our motivation, I had him on. You know, you need a Black male party or something. That Million Man March was a huge missed organizing opportunity. They should have registered them all to form a new political party with 1 million voters, the Black male party, right? And then you got some real reform, you get some real change, you get some real whatever, because those million Black votes can go Republican, they can go Democrat. Whoever's going to pass some kind of agenda or some kind of item that's going to benefit us, as opposed to Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. We're not here to help Black people. We're just here to help everybody. Meanwhile, Black people get nothing, right? AAPI get what they got to get. There's nothing wrong with AAPI. I'm not trying to be biased, basically everything. But it's just about getting value for your vote. Even you got Stephen A. Smith sitting here talking about we've been getting shafted. And it's the truth. And he works for the ultimate Longo Corporation, Walt Disney, right? And Walt Disney was down with those National Socialists in Germany too. Right? He really was. He was, in America. It was called the American Boom, B-U-M-B. Right? They had him in Britain too. So these kids are, not say kids, but tell this Democrat socialist stuff. All right. It's an experiment. Let's see. Right? Let's just hope it doesn't lead to death and destruction that it has historically led to. Right? So, so we'll see. But that's how everything else goes. We'll see. And we take it as it goes. But so yeah, so on Instagram, I see I'm on Instagram a lot. It's C5 Black 25 plus a Chiller 525 and GNN 525. Once again, 5 and 25. Right? And Chris Black on YouTube, Equip for You on YouTube. Oh, and www.eclipse.biz. I gotta put up this so I can keep my website up. But everything should be linked to there. I mean, I get it all together. That'll be the website. Eclipse.biz should be like I couldn't have, but I'll have links and stuff all in there, so you can anybody who goes there can see and go travel out and explore different destinations. Right? Try to bring everything together with a nice code, right? Like America, out of many become one. All right, goodbye. You know what to start recording.